legal landmines of athletes and NIL? NIL. .606 to Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we've got your Wednesday ready to roll. Off and running on this Wednesday morning. Can't wait to break down the myriad of topics we are covering today. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at the rundown. Attorney Franz Borghardt is going to be on for Legally Served in half an hour from right now. We got a lot of ground to cover with Franz. Number one, let's walk through the procedure of what happens when evidence goes missing in a case. Number two, what happens if a political candidate intentionally breaks the law while running for office? Talking about Gary Chambers smoking weed in his commercial. We'll get to that as a separate topic at 6:25. And above any of those things, what kind of legal landmines are there surrounding college athletes and name, image, likeness? We'll dive into all that at 6:35. 7:15, Veneeth Iyengar is going to be on board. Let's talk a little bit about broadband. Let's talk a little bit about gumbo. No, I'm not talking about actual gumbo. That is the acronym they've come up with for the broadband program in Louisiana. Connect Louisiana has received nearly $450 million in funding requests for the first round of gumbo. The grants have been applied for in 58 of the 64 parishes around the state. And we're going to talk with Veneeth about the process of getting money actually into the hands of the people within those parishes, or actually should say into the hands of the people who will be installing the broadband in those parishes, and where the remaining 6 parishes can go if they want to sign up, even though a little bit late to the game. D.C. Current with Congressman Garret will be coming your way at 7:35. Big news when it comes to Morganza and the Gulf. The congressman sending out a press release yesterday. We will talk about that today. Also, might do a little preview of next week, or Washington Mardi Gras is right around the corner. So we'll talk with the congressman at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, what's to come over the next 36 hours when it comes to our forecast? The drive into work this morning was about, 18 to 20 degrees warmer than it was yesterday morning. I actually ended yesterday by turning the air on in my car, and then back to the heat, and then later back to the air today, and then tomorrow, who knows? Friday morning might even have a little bit of snow. Don't even know. Going to talk with Dr. Josh Eachus at 8:15 about that. And then 8:35, how much can our taste buds tell us about our immunity? And yes, this is a topic that will cover COVID, but it will cover a number of other topics as well. There's a new test kit out called Phenomune. Dr. Henry Barham is one of the creators of this. I got the test kit right here. We'll take it on the air when we have Dr. Barham on at 8:35. But I want to know just how much our taste receptors can tell us and what its effects can be on the pandemic. Like, as the White House is putting out millions and millions and millions of home tests deliverable by the USPS, but we'll get into that later too. How quickly do I need to line up to get tests? Our own HR department says we can order some at-home tests through the company. How quickly do I need to line up for that? If we find out we need multiple boosters, how quickly do I have to line up for that? All those answers could be in this little kit right here and could be in our taste buds. That's all coming your way later on in the show today. So stick around. Oh, plus, we're going to talk music at 9 a.m. Got some more YouTube bonus content. And if you're not following us on YouTube or not subscribed to us yet on YouTube, it's Mornings with Brian Haldane. Get over there and subscribe. We would love to have you. There's a show behind the show on YouTube. Starting off, and we got about a minute before we have to break. Starting off this morning, I want to update the COVID numbers because we didn't get to do that yesterday because yesterday was a holiday. I'm sorry, day before yesterday was a holiday. Yesterday the numbers came out at noon. I'm all backwards. Yesterday, the Louisiana Department of Health posted up 29,125 new cases of COVID-19. That's a ridiculous number until you divide it by 4. The previous time the numbers were posted was Friday. So you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before they were posted on Tuesday. 58 new deaths reported yesterday. That actually is a big number over 4 days. But the number I want to look at to start off this morning is the number of folks in the hospital with COVID right now, 2,183. Yes, that's still high. Yes, it's higher than it was on Friday. But when the numbers were posted on Friday, it was 2,173. Over the course of 4 days, that number only went up by 10. I'll take it. I'll take it and run. We've been told that all evidence was pointing to the Omicron variant being like a flash fire. It's going to spread everywhere real quickly, and then it's going to dissipate just as quickly. Well, we're not on the downside yet, but if you could see over the course of 4 days, the number of people added to the hospital is only 10, whereas every day prior to that was up by a couple hundred. That is the turning of the ship, if you will. Not turned yet, but the turning of the ship. Hopefully. Can't predict the trend based off of 1 day's or one reporting's numbers, but that reporting is over the course of 4 days. So for what it's worth right now, I'll take it and run. All right, we got a break. When we come back, LSU men's basketball is going to be at Alabama tonight. Coleman Coliseum. Been a bit of a nemesis for the Tigers. Can they break that up? Plus, coming off of a loss to Arkansas, and you've got back-to-back road games with Alabama and Tennessee. It's a tough spot in the schedule. But these are the things Will Wade gears up for. We'll have some audio from him next. Before we hit that break, I want to remind you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. We are, what are we now, 18 days into January? If getting a good night's sleep was one of your New Year's resolutions, that starts with a good mattress. That starts at 4065 Florida Boulevard, the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Mitch Kimball's got some deals going on right now, y'all. Twin gel memory foam mattress running from $149.99. A full gel memory foam mattress running at $199. He's got top name brand queen size mattresses that would normally run you $8.99, marked down to $3.99. Kings marked all the way down to $5.99. And here's this is a fun one. The California King, the really big one. Name brand mattress plus adjustable base, normally $24.99, now $9.99. That is while they last. Mitch tells me they've only got a couple more in stock on that one. Swing by and see them, 4065 Florida Boulevard or 18181 Jefferson Highway. That's the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet.
So here's my question. Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Here's my question. If I were to get my own athlete, if the Borghardt law firm were to purchase NIL, which athlete from LSU should I go with? First of all, which one can I?
Right.
I gotta be able to afford it. I don't got Gordon's money. You know what I mean? Right. I don't have crash cash. So it'd be like women's basketball.
First of all, I wouldn't overlook that.
I gotta tell you, got me. I'm loving women's basketball right now. I had the coach on my show. Mm-hmm. She did fantastic. She's doing great this year.
And
she's already exceeded expectations.
Yes. You and Fisher, by the way, not only attended every men's and women's game so far this year, but you wear the same thing every time. Hit the same pose.
It's like a uniform.
Fisher's got the same adorable smile every time. Y'all nail it. You nail it, man.
I think they're reposting those photos.
No. What?
So hey, who's my athlete?
Let's walk through that when we're on the air. We're going to have some fun with it. Give me 10 seconds to get something. There is no hope.
Eric said Cecil Collin ineligible. Oh.
That's funny. That's a dated reference right there.
Oh,
You realize it's been 25 years since he was there.
Hey, had Cecil hired me, he might be eligible.
It's true. Might be wrapping up a Hall of Fame career.
Better call Franz.
Hope at 35. I'm going to knock that out the segment prior, so we're not eating up too much of Franz's time. .617, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. All right, sports time, and let's talk a little LSU basketball. The now 13th ranked LSU Tigers going to square off against Alabama tonight, trying to bounce back from a tough loss to Arkansas, as Les Miles used to say. While defense has been the team's calling card so far this season, which has been unusual in the Will Wade tenure, but this year it's ruling the day. Will Wade's looking for his stagnant offense to execute a lot better against the Tide.
We don't have very good precision of movement, as I would call it. Like, we just move to kind of move. Like, there's no precision to it. We cut like in a banana in circles instead of straight lines, and we don't, we guard ourselves. We're like a one-legged duck swimming. We just move all the way around. We just move in the same spot over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
It's crazy how the perception of a coach can go so far as to the coverage of a team. Most people hear that and they get fired up. Yeah, Will Wade's riding the ship. Yeah, Will Wade's got to. I imagine if Ed Ogeron had said that, what would the response have been? Anyway, one player that has to give. He'd have been ripped. Well, why, coach? You're the one running practice. Why is it like that? One player that has to get back on track is Tari Eason. Tigers' leading scorer this season hasn't made his presence felt as of late. Wade says this is time for that to change for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got to post up when they switch him like they did yesterday or the other night. He's got to post. He just stands down there. Like, he's got to post up. He guards himself sometimes. And I'm not saying we don't miss him sometimes when he is open. Like, we missed him sometimes. But he's got to be physical and post him up or everybody's just going to switch him. He's got to work to get open, too. And when he works to get open, I'll make sure the ball's getting down there.
This is one of those things, we talked about this, I want to say it was last week, about how it's impossible to get a proper evaluation of how conference play will play out when you play the preseason schedule or the non-conference schedule that the LSU basketball Tigers play. Will Wade does a meticulous job, a fantastic job, of making sure that his team is matched up against other tournament teams. But those are tournament teams that are going to play way over their heads in a smaller conference, and you're going to see drop-off once conference play starts, not just from a fan's perspective, but a player's perspective of who they're matching up against. Tip-off tonight is 6 p.m. I tell you what, there's one other cut from Wade I wanted to get to, but we got to take a break here. We're going to check the Fox Business Report. We're going to check traffic. Coming back after the break, we'll wrap up with LSU basketball, talk a little NFL as well, and then Gary Chambers.
What did you think about that commercial, that advertisement, where he's blazing? Assuming we know what it is.
Hang on one second. Jake, are you able to put the thing on the big screen? Okay, good. We're actually going to have video.
Yeah, it's a good
on
commercial.
The video.
I think it's a good advertisement.
Okay, so my takeaway is at no point does he say I'm smoking marijuana.
Didn't have to.
I know. But is that
just like me? Just like me.
He's smoking marijuana just like you?
No, that's the.
I know. I know. The just like me thing I thought was more about being black.
Brian, my body's a temple. A temple of doom. Oh, man. Thought it was clever.
I thought it was a brilliant ad. I've got notes.
Isn't it going to be interesting if Gary wins?
No, he's not going to win.
I think he's in a position where he wins even if he doesn't win.
Okay,
For
if you
his
define
brand,
winning,
for his brand, for what he does.
if you define winning as 50% plus one of the vote, he's not going to do that. If you define winning as developing a war chest to run a smaller race next time, then yes, he's going to
I would
crush
have to assume that he has a war chest, right? Did he burn through all the money in the last campaign?
I don't know how much money he got.
Because you can keep a little bit, right?
You can keep all of it.
Yeah.
You can roll over all of it. Please be new.
No.
That's right, I think.
Oh, Mulkey. Can you imagine what a Borghardt law firm like Mulkey advertisement would look like? Oh, it'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful.
She don't need Borghardt law money.
She doesn't.
She doesn't need that.
doesn't.
I still can't believe when she was on your show, she said she denied saying that they gave her a truckload of money. Because that's exactly how she said it.
My favorite part in that episode, in that show, was she goes, "Well, I'm just a simple country girl," and I looked at the coach and I was like, "Coach, you're a lot of things. Simple country girl ain't one of them."
My ass. Oh.
I feel like I need to get a new Haspel suit, man. I feel like I'm got a lot of wear out of this Haspel suit. It's my Wednesday suit. I just feel like I need to have another one in the mix that I can wear.
I'm always in favor of a new Haspel suit. Yeah. All right. Who did you say was next? Hope Ministries? Okay. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Not quite done with sports yet. Wanted to cover one more quick one on LSU basketball. And this has been a thing that we kind of knew was going to happen at the beginning of the year. And Will Wade and his crew have been able to stave it off a good bit. Coach Wade said in his latest press media availability, Tigers are going to have to utilize their depth to avoid the fatigue that has plagued them during late-game situations so far in conference play.
You know, we've kind of worn teams down. That last 9 minutes, we wore down against Arkansas. And so we haven't been able to use our depth with all the injuries and everything else that we got going on. We just haven't been able to use the depth to the level that we need to.
They need to be like two guys deeper. That's it. Losing Xavier Penson, who's probably not going to play tonight, but he's going to be a game-time decision. Losing Penson just revealed a lot of the weakness behind that. So, LSU at Alabama, 6 p.m. tonight. You can hear it on Eagle 98.1 or watch it on ESPN2 or do like you should and turn down the sound on your TV and turn up LSU Sports Radio. Chris Blair, John Brady will be on the call tonight at 6 p.m. Pre-game starts at 5:30. From the NFL standpoint, I don't know what to do this weekend, y'all. So I really, really believe the Titans are going to be in the Super Bowl. But they're playing Joey B and Jamar Chase this weekend. 3.5-point favorites. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. kickoff. I believe our sister station 104.5 ESPN will have it. Bengals are at the Titans. I mean, if I were to wager money on this game, am I betting with my head or am I betting with my heart? I don't know. By the way, that'll be followed at 7:15 by 49ers at Packers. Packers are a 6-point favorite there. Now, I could bet with my head and my heart in that one because there are no former LSU Tigers with the Packers.
It's just business.
Man.
It's just business. When it comes to your money, business.
Okay. There's so much more to unpack from that because, yes, even if it is just business, putting money down against Joey B, it's bad business. It's been bad business. They shouldn't have done what they did last week. I don't know. I'm going to stay off the game before it's all said and done. I think Sunday's where I'm going to earn my keep putting money down on the Bucks. All right. Have you seen the ad yet? Gary Chambers is in the Senate race, and he is all up in the Senate race. The Associated Press calling him a political newcomer. For those of us in Baton Rouge, he is not.
It's got national attention, by the way.
Oh, this is where we're going with this, by the way. A political newcomer in Louisiana whose adept use of social media drew notice when he finished strong in the U.S. House race last year has posted an online video ad certain to draw more attention and perhaps campaign donations. It shows him smoking marijuana while decrying racial disparities and arrests for the drug. All right, we've got the big video screen here in studio. Let's take a look at this Gary Chambers ad titled, 37 seconds? Every 37 seconds. Go ahead.
Every 37 seconds, someone is arrested for possession of marijuana. Since 2010, state and local police have arrested an estimated 7.3 million Americans for violating marijuana laws, over half of all drug arrests. Black people are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana laws than white people. States waste $3.7 billion enforcing marijuana laws every year. Most of the people police are arresting aren't dealers, but rather people with small amounts of pot, just like me. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
So what do you think? What do you think? I think it's a brilliant ad. Oh, by the way, you can hate on Gary Chambers all you want. It's a brilliant ad. And if you're not watching us on YouTube,
you got to make certain assumptions. One, that the thing he is smoking is in fact a marijuana blunt.
We'll get to the legal aspect of this in just a minute. I want to get.
Sorry.
I gotta start. I gotta start with the political aspect of this. John Kennedy has more than $3 million in his war chest just for waking up in the morning.
Right.
John Kennedy can drop a little quote on Fox News and make another $1 million. He could fart into a microphone and make $1 million, which sounds like something he'd say. I could fart into a microphone and make $1 million. Gary Chambers is never going to keep up with that. He just can't. Politically, yesterday Gary was on had roughly a dozen different national interviews. Google Gary Chambers marijuana right now, and you're not going to find The Advocate or The Hayride or The Dead Pelican. Well, you'll find it, but you got to scroll down past Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS. You're going to have to scroll down past Politico, New York Times. That man just bought himself so much free media, it's ridiculous. Hate on him all you want. Hate on him all you want. That's a smart ad. And if you're looking to be the David versus Goliath, when it comes to budgets, swinging like that is the only way to roll. And oh, by the way, don't think he's done. Don't think for a second that he's finished. There will be more just like that. And if you didn't see the video just yet, I tell you what, we should probably post the link in our YouTube so you can get directly to it. If you haven't seen the video just yet, it's a very well-made commercial. It's simple. It takes advantage of a lot of the aesthetic of Louisiana in the background.
Do you think it was difficult to find a field with the leather chair in it?
It probably was a little bit difficult to, maybe swing by Churchill's and lift a chair.
Ooh.
I tell you what, we're going to break this down from a legal aspect next. Right now, we got to check news on Talk 107.3.
Sorry, I got excited there. I got
No.
I got excited.
I had so much on this that I wanted to kind of triage it to make sure.
You think it was really weed?
No.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
Gary's way too smart to do that.
So, as someone who smokes a lot of cigars, I will tell you, it does not look like he's inhaling whatever it is he's smoking.
Correct.
He's dragging on it.
You can tell the difference between the
Yeah.
plume
Yeah.
that's been in the lungs versus that just like wafts out.
Or
Yes.
comes out your nose. Not that I've ever smoked weed before.
Well, I would assume I've never smoked weed. I could say that definitively, but I can assume that weed smoke comes out the same as tobacco smoke.
I've heard it's puff, puff, give.
Well, that's from the movie Friday.
No. But I hear that's how it's puff, puff, give. And you don't want to mess up the rotation. That's what I hear.
Yeah. That movie's 27 years old.
It's a beautiful movie.
Is that not disappointing?
It's a beautiful movie.
Good morning, Christy.
So it's brilliant, though.
It
the
is.
disruptive nature of that advertisement, it probably cost him very little to create it.
Oh, my gosh.
What's that? No, Clinton, I don't disagree that he unrolled it to make it look like a blunt.
I don't know what I did with my watch, but it's completely broken.
That's Christy?
Yeah. Oh, no, boo. Right as she gets me my own Fitbit, hers busts. Like the armband
So that's
busted.
a Fitbit.
That is a Fitbit Finesse or
Looks like
Versa.
an
Versa.
It looks like an iWatch.
It does. It does. It doesn't. All it does is really tracks my steps, heart rate, and calories for the day. I can interlink it to make it do more. I just haven't. All right. So yeah, you can. I don't know how you could go about unrolling a cigar. I'm not that adept at that sort of thing.
So the act of cutting the cigar, unrolling it to make it look like a blunt is that's not a difficult thing.
Okay.
And that was a big blunt. I mean, he's a big guy. It's a big blunt.
Ask the governor. Oh, let me go back through. I haven't see Eric, Renee, Clint. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Byron. Good morning. Patty G show's in this morning. Nice to see Patty G actually pay attention to the show when he's not on it.
No comment.
Okay.
I like Patty. He's not like Haggai.
Also, because you don't want me throwing that back at you, right?
He doesn't. It's not like Haggai. So I respect Patty.
Wow. Bro, Haggai's gonna be out again this week.
That's a shame.
Haggai needs to run his triple backup on his immune system.
Is he doing okay?
He's fine. He just can't stop testing positive.
Darn it.
I'm like, yo, at a certain point, you're milking this, Hoss. Good morning, Galen. Good morning, Christian. Who else is in there this morning? Kevin, good morning. This is Gear Bear. Looks like he dropped a few pounds. Al Sharpton style. Gary's got AIDS.
So what's beautiful is to talk about, if Kennedy talks about this, he's only helping Gary. He can't have a conversation about race and racial arrest and inequity with Gary Chambers.
Yeah,
You can't have that conversation with him.
Talk to John Kennedy from St. Tammany Parish about what's going on with race.
Hey, Gary, I mean, it's like, hey, John, what's your white privilege like?
Right.
What's it like being you?
Man, I'm not racist. I know all 9 white people
I got
in St. Tammany.
I got lots of black people. I'm John Kennedy.
The thing is, though, can John Kennedy ignore it? Does he have does he have it in his plums?
So can he dodge the legalization of marijuana question?
No. Do you want to?
And the money and the revenue. I mean, because if he's in favor of legalization, then, hey, I agree with Gary Chambers. What's that sound like?
You don't say I agree with Gary Chambers.
Puff, puff, give.
Well, crap, I didn't get my Rise LA. Hey. Why does Jared Ambo look like he runs collections for a low-end bookie? That's gonna be in your head forever. Yes, it is time for Legally Served. Yes, it is time to welcome in attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, what's happening, man?
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Talk 107.3. Brian, what's shaking, man?
Well, first of all, I mean, should we unofficially say that this segment is sponsored by Haspel? I mean, they're not throwing us any money yet.
I mean,
but you're looking suave.
Well, Haspel, if Haspel wants to get my NIL,
Yeah.
which we're going to talk about in a little while,
Oh, yeah.
I'm for sale. Franz Borghardt's from sale.
Yeah.
My question is why don't we have some nice leather chairs in this studio?
Because they're all out in the field
if they're in the
somewhere with
field,
somebody smoking
I mean,
weeds in them.
Where do you want to jump in?
I tell you what, we'll do the NIL thing in a minute, and I want to talk about Dennis Perkins' hard drives. We'll talk about that later on, too. But we got to start with this Gary Chambers ad. Because, look, hey, everybody else is talking about it. I covered it from a political perspective in the last segment. And like I said, you can hate on Gary all you want, okay? Which, if you've never met him, he's actually a really great guy.
So if you arrest
Gary, you can hate on Gary all you
let's
want.
assume, we're going to make certain assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
If, in fact, he is smoking weed, if, in fact, he is smoking weed in Louisiana in a field, if you arrest him for possession of marijuana, you just prove his point, right?
100%.
Which, by the way, he wins.
So, and if I'm Gary Chambers and the cops show up at my door to arrest me, I'm totally like, give me 5 minutes. I got to get some cameras rolling.
So you got to make certain assumptions that the blunt, you have to assume to believe that he was possessing. You have to assume that the blunt was actually in fact marijuana.
Well, also, it's January 18th. We are now a full 2 weeks into the possibility that was marijuana and he did nothing wrong.
He's got to lean into it, though. If in fact...
No, he's got to play the victim here, totally.
Yeah.
But if he's got some kind of condition that warrants a prescription, yeah.
So marijuana in Louisiana under state law is a very small misdemeanor.
Yes.
It's like one of the smallest misdemeanors in the book.
It's definitely worth a political ad that's going to get you that much national attention.
Yeah, a step above a traffic ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Federally, you're not really seeing people prosecuted for possession of a blunt.
Right.
So that would only leave a city or municipal, crime. So the issue is this. It's kind of like where we are now as a society. It's kind of like you caught him speeding. That's the political effect from a legal standpoint.
Well, from a legal standpoint, though, from watching that commercial, from a legal standpoint, can you prove that that's marijuana or not?
No.
And number two, he never actually says, hey, I'm about to smoke some marijuana. Watch me smoking marijuana. Right now I'm smoking marijuana.
So it's inferences, right?
Correct.
He's making implications. I would say, as a former prosecutor, I would say I couldn't formally charge that.
Right.
And by the way, I would also say, what am I doing? I've got real cases and real crimes, and I don't need to have a police officer spending time and energy tracking down Gary, which will only give him more attention. So I just don't think you have enough proof there to say that it's actually weed. Whether he would say that it was weed or not, which it was just subtle enough.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's a brilliant commercial.
I mean, from a non-legal standpoint, it's just possession. Whether or not he's smoking it or not, whether or not he's inhaling it or not, I don't think he's inhaling.
Well, wait,
As
whoa,
a
whoa,
cigar
whoa, whoa.
smoker, I don't think
Hang
it's
on.
inhalable.
Illegally, is there a difference there?
No, it's just possession.
Right, exactly.
It's just
All right.
possession.
And if you were going to go after possession, you would only prove his point. And he is going to force a conversation politically, which is great. We need to have that conversation.
Well, and
you can't argue the numbers that were in there, which, by the way, another brilliant job. When he has numbers, use numbers. When you don't have numbers, use things like most.
right.
And it's really well done.
So I will tell you, and this is going to hurt my bottom line. So let it not be said that I don't say things that are intellectually honest on this show for you and the listeners that it's against my bottom line. We need to legalize it. It is a waste of effort and energy. I make money off possession of marijuana because I represent folks that are charged with it. But what are we doing? Like, we got real crime, man.
Well, like you said, $3.7 billion is spent every year on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's use that elsewhere. You're not going to get any pushback or argument with me on this one. This is
I'm more impressed with the leather chair in the field.
so.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was a very nice chair. Out in the backdrop was gorgeous as well because it kind of had that dark
So
like.
that's the other thing is we don't know if it's in Louisiana or not.
Okay, also
If
true.
it's not in Louisiana,
Yeah.
then it would only leave, and it's in a state there where it's legal, then it would only leave the federal crime. And I've already told you we're not prosecuting for possession of small quantities of marijuana.
He's not gonna. Yeah, and he's not gonna be prosecuted for this. Which
No.
I'm sure there's a part of him is like. Well, no.
Lord, baby Jesus, please let me get prosecuted for this.
Here's the thing, though. If he's not prosecuted for it, then it only proves his point as well.
He wins either way.
Right.
That is the brilliance of this advertisement.
But from a legal standpoint.
From a legal standpoint, there's just not enough there to support an arrest, or in this case, by the way, we don't really arrest people for possession. We give summons, but Gary may say, well, no, if you're a black male, you get arrested. So it's a summons.
That was the whole purpose of the ad was,
Right.
people just like me.
He ain't wrong.
No, I know.
I can say that.
But no, he's got the numbers to back himself up on
Right.
that. And now if you want to get into whether or not that's racially motivated or circumstantially motivated, the difference between smoking weed in your dorm room versus smoking weed in the Sonic drive-thru.
I have not seen a lot of arrests for smoking weed in the dorm. I mean,
No.
I've had that case before.
No, that's what I'm
but
saying, though.
I've had the case
If
before.
you're out and about versus staying at home.
Dudes always want to drive when they're smoking weed. I don't know what that's about. Anyways.
No clue. I'm of the uninitiated in that
All right.
category.
So, NIL.
Yes, name, image, likeness. Late last week, we heard on After Further Review with Matt Moscona, Gordon McKernan popping on the show to talk about signing a deal with Keishon Butte. It's been all over WBRZ and a few other
I
outlets
mean, that's
this
the next
week.
progression, right? There's no more billboards.
Right.
There's just human beings.
Right.
No more billboards, just human beings, Gordon. That's right. I just went.
Yeah, you did. Not a whole lot of wiggle room there. So, Gordon McKernan is doing something that the LSU fan base has been on the back burner with. Like, there's a lot of other universities that have been way further out front when it comes to just flinging NIL dollars at athletes.
First NIL I've seen, but LSU has been willing to sell official injury attorneys Dudley DeBosier.
Yes.
They've been willing to sell those kind of monikers to law firms, personal injury law firms. I don't know that they have an official criminal defense firm yet. That's just waiting to happen. Point is, though, he's basically, I mean, like, how does that functionally work? Like, they can't wear a Gordon McKernan, like, patch on their uniform, right?
No.
They're not wearing special Gordon McKernan Nikes. You know, right? I mean,
No, it works the same as any other advertisement. I mean, you don't have to see, and I know I'm dating myself with this one, but you don't have to see Michael Jordan wearing Hanes underwear in the middle of a game, but he does the commercials.
so when you're, I mean, but here's the thing though, they're athletes. So like, what's the correlation between crash money, accidents, and playing football on a field? That's what I'm getting.
No, you're back that up to every endorsement you've ever seen from every athlete ever.
If I were to get into an accident, I would call Gordon. I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, name an athlete that hasn't endorsed something that. What does being an athlete have to do with where you buy your car?
So advertising,
or who handles your retirements?
advertising rules wise with the state bar, he should be okay. I mean, it's an endorsement, right? That's no different than someone saying, man, Franz is an awesome, perhaps one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Louisiana. I'm going to leave a Google review for him. It's really no different than that. I stand by my position. When you run out of signs, you start buying humans.
Buying humans. All right, we got a break real quick. There's two other questions I want to ask on this topic before we move on to Cynthia and Dennis Perkins.
Okay.
Livingston Sweethearts. They're back in the news again. Right after this, we got a break for Your Money Now and traffic coming back on Talk 107.3. I wanted to leave room for my Hope Ministries.
Did you just say sweethearts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. I stand by my question, guys. Who is the athlete that I need to get an NIL with? Eric Harold, buying humans. I thought playing for no pay was like slavery.
They weren't playing for no pay. It just had to be behind the scenes.
I made the pre NIL, the pre changing of the rules. I've said before, athletes are profitable to university like field hands. I've said it before.
Universities are profitable to athletes as well. We're still undervaluing the television exposure of getting that audition for the NFL every week for 2 years. Not to mention the
Eric, if you ever needed a criminal defense attorney, just call your boy.
Not to mention that a scholarship is still worth something.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. How many guys were on LSU's football team this year?
Their degree is a means to an end. It really is.
Some of them.
Yeah.
How many guys were on LSU's team this year?
I have no idea.
83.
Are you about to start asking me
83.
sports questions?
How many of them are going to play in the NFL?
I don't know this.
7.
I don't know the stats. How many are playing arena football? Is that still a thing?
I don't think arena football's still around. I don't know. I used to work stadium sound for an NIFL team. Not Arena Football League, but the National Indoor Football League. The Homa Bayou Bucks. Played stadium sound for them. That was fun. Driving down to Homa every Saturday night for $75.
Eric says, I'll holler. I plan on not needing that service.
Okay.
You can't guarantee that no one's ever going to accuse you of committing a crime.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You can say, I'm never going to commit a crime, but you can't guarantee that no one's ever going to accuse you. And it happens all the time. I think I need to have Gary Chambers on my show. Go Roo show. In a field. 2 leather chairs.
You should.
Yeah.
I think it worked out well with the video.
Yeah. Byron asked the very question.
Business leaders, are you feeling the pinch of Louisiana's workforce crisis? Fred Keller is the founder and chair of Cascade Engineering. He changed how he managed his workforce, and you can learn his ways. He's bringing retention rates from 34% to 97% under his own roof, and you can learn his ways. Employees got off welfare, company profits increased. These two things are not mutually exclusive. He got it done, and you can learn how. Fred's going to be in Baton Rouge for the Rise LA Business and Industry Luncheon, March 22nd. Learn his strategy, work with other leaders to make a strategy that's right for your company. So the journey begins at risela.biz. Risela.biz. March 22nd, visit risela.biz. Are you having trouble retaining workforce amidst the great resignation? Pandemic woes still affecting your team? risela.biz. It's all going down March 22nd. Fred Keller, founder and chair of Cascade Engineering, is going to be in the house. Rise LA. We all rise together. Quick break for Your Money Now. Coming right back. Legally Served with Franz Borghardt, part of Mornings with Brian Haldane, right here on Talk 107.3.
Byron asks, the bigger question is why does the average person think that a business provides quality services or goods based on college kids' input?
Right.
That's yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Well, unless you're saying that the sort of person that would believe that would align with the sort of person that is more frequent to want to pursue a personal injury case in a car accident.
Yes. That's 100% right. It's one of those things that I've struggled with because I'm in the business where like we want the advertising and whatnot.
Well, I don't have a problem
but the number, and I work with LSU on the side as well, the number of people are like, you should hire so-and-so, he's a former Tiger.
So I come back, I'm being tongue-in-cheek when I say the whole buying human beings thing. Here it is. When you have so much money for advertising, and you literally don't have another billboard, where are you going to spend your money?
It's FU money. At this point.
It's basically it's status symbol money. It's disruptive.
Yeah.
It is kind of like the Gary Chambers commercial. It's disruptive. So I don't know if it's effective other than it's clickbait. Gary's is more clickbait than
Yes.
the
Well,
Athletic.
Gary's is more outlandish than this. Gordon's a step behind.
I actually don't know that it's outlandish.
What,
I
Gary?
don't know that Gary's advertisement is outlandish. I think it's, candidly, if by outlandish you mean outrageous.
How about not very often talked about? It's not. No, you're right. It's not outlandish. That's the wrong word. It's more along the lines of, yeah, outrageous would be a better word.
Right.
It would be along the lines of.
We're talking about Gary's advertisement because, one, he may be smoking weed in the field, but two, it's actually pretty thought provocative.
Yes.
Right? So
Provocative is a better word, too.
yeah. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt. Continuing right now. CBS News coming your way in 8 minutes. All right. When we left off, we were talking NIL dollars, and LSU's late to the ball game here. I want to ask this question from this wouldn't be from a criminal defense perspective, but so if Gordon McKern is just flinging money at Keyshawn Butte, what would stop him from replicating this process, I don't know, 80 more times to get everybody on the roster, on his roster?
So if you're a lesser player, and by lesser player I mean not a keystone, not a marquee player,
Right.
you're going to take that money.
Yes.
Like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Right? There's even been discussions of the top players. At what point is there resentment from the lesser players? Because the top players can only be top players with the assistance of the lesser players.
Yeah.
So there is literally nothing that stops Gordon from buying a team. Nothing.
So
there's no rules and regulations that prohibit it.
I'm kind of using the legal segment to start a more outlandish argument, but are we this far away? Are we this close to the idea of scholarships being non-starters?
Well,
If you're starting to fling around millions of dollars all over the place, does it even matter if your education's paid for anymore and you could save the scholarship for somebody else and be a preferred walk-on?
well, there's that would look like a foundation donation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Gordon McKernan scholarship, academic scholarship, or athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
Which you can do that, right? I mean,
Right.
It's not, the G guarantee, baby. So can we talk about losing hard drives? Do we have enough time to do that?
Yeah, we absolutely can. I don't know. The scholarship thing intrigued me. I was listening to the Evergreen pod yesterday, and it came up, and I was like, there's got to be something that's going to derail this whole train. All right. In the years since Cynthia and Dennis Perkins were arrested, a defense attorney says his hard drives, listed as being found in the couple's safe by investigators, have vanished. The couple has been behind bars since their arrest in November of 2019. Prosecutors charged them with a combined 150 counts of sex crimes, including some against children and animals. Jared Ambo, Dennis Perkins' attorney, told WBRZ this week there are one or two digital storage devices missing from the scene. Now, WBRZ's followed up with the Attorney General's office, who's heading up the investigation, who says there are no missing hard drives. We look forward to holding Dennis Perkins accountable and getting justice for the crime victims. Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office is referring things back to the AG's office because the AG's office is handling the case. What happens when something like this happens?
So it creates an issue that probably wasn't an issue, and it creates chaos. And defense attorneys need chaos, right? Especially in a case where there's overwhelming evidence like this, because the chaos is what? A distraction. It creates issues that weren't issues. Meanwhile, how do you lose two hard drives?
Did they lose two hard drives, though?
Did they lose the two hard drives? Is this some kind of nefarious thing by the sheriff's office, by law enforcement? Does it help either of them? Well, I mean, if you're the defense attorney, what was on the drives? Why did they get lost? Who took the hard drives?
Well, it's their old Napster files. I mean,
How do you
I don't
know
know
that,
I know.
though?
I don't, because they don't exist.
Right.
Court documents indicate the Attorney General's office processed the evidence but said the files were not relevant. They claim the hard drives were not seized.
How?
Court documents claim they weren't. Well, it's a poorly written sentence. I don't know if they is the court documents or they is the AG's office.
So how do they know? So there's two issues with evidence. You got to collect it,
Yeah.
right? That's
Right.
like half the battle is just collecting, picking up the gun casing, picking up and securing the hard drive.
Right.
And then you got to preserve it.
Right.
It's called chain of custody. And if all
Is this Seinfeld renting a car? You know how to take the reservation.
well, I mean,
You just don't know how to keep
I
the
gotta
reservation,
tell ya, I got
which is really the most important part of the reservation.
Right. I mean, I gotta tell you, whether there was one scintilla of evidence on the hard drives, now they are exponentially more important because it's an issue that wasn't an issue, and now it's an issue. Now, if you find them, where were they? How did they get there? Who
Were they
moved them?
altered while they were gone?
Were they altered? It creates an issue, and by the way, sometimes a good defense is the emergence of chaos. And it gives a chaos. Sometimes chaos creates defenses.
This sort of thing is why people hate your profession.
I'm sorry. Well, wait, hold on. Jared Ambo didn't go in and take the hard drives.
Maybe.
Some kind of incompetent buffoon
Maybe.
didn't secure the
Maybe.
hard drives.
Maybe. We don't know that. What? If you could throw up questions of their incompetence, why can't I throw up questions of whether or not something may or may not have gone down nefariously?
Okay. That dog is not going to hunt. Like, if the AG is standing there arguing at trial, Mr. Ambo took the hard drives.
I'm not saying
That's
he would actually
not
accuse
gonna
them of that. I'm
work.
not saying he would accuse them of that.
Again, these hard drives probably had been extracted. They probably had the data taken from them. There probably was nothing of value on the hard drives. Where are the hard drives?
Court documents indicate that the Attorney General's office processed the evidence but said the files were not relevant. If the court documents said the
why
files...
get rid of the evidence?
Why hold on to it?
It's because the case is still pending.
I don't need the tires off of Dennis Perkins' car.
Prosecutor doesn't look at a piece of evidence collected by law enforcement and say, I don't think this is relevant, so I'm going to throw it away. That absolutely does not happen. As a former prosecutor who actually tried cases, I know Jeffy hasn't tried any cases. As a prosecutor who actually tried cases, I'm going to tell you right now, I never sat in my office and said, I don't think I'm going to use this piece of evidence. I'm just going to throw it away. No, the defendant has a constitutional right to due process. If law enforcement collected it, then it's fair game for analysis by the defense. And the destruction of evidence or the abandonment of evidence without more, it creates issues where there wasn't an issue. This is to me, the problem I have is this was so unnecessary. Preserve it. You've got to preserve evidence until the case is over.
We've also got to wait and see how it plays out because they say there are no missing hard drives.
Well, that's the bigger thing.
Right.
So
what happens then? Because if there are no missing hard drives, then where did this story come from?
Well,
where did Ambo's quotes come from? And all this is just posturing, and that brings me back. Oh, we're out of time. That brings me back around to none of this has anything to do with the guilt or innocence of Dennis and Cynthia Perkins and the victims that are going to have to suffer as a result of more headlines.
Well, it does if exculpatory evidence existed on the hard drives, which you can't say.
We got to continue on YouTube. Here's CBS News. Sorry.
You just need to give this segment more time. That's all.
Well, you want to back time this segment out to 6:25 and cover all three?
I mean, I'm here anyway.
You are here anyway. I got no problem with that.
So here's the thing: we don't know what's on the hard drives.
Right.
Even if they present even if the law enforcement, whether it's the AG's office or the sheriff's office or whomever, says, no, we did an analysis of these hard drives and this is what we found.
Right.
You can't verify it. It's unverifiable if they're gone.
Right.
Right? And this is not like, here's the big thing. It's not like DNA evidence. I collect a DNA sample and I deplete the sample by testing it. This is slightly different than that, right? It's not slightly different. It is different. It's a piece of physical hardware. And it's not, by the way, hard drives, it's not like a screw. It's not like, oh, I lost this screw. It's a freaking hard drive.
Well, I mean, it'd be about the size of a cell phone if you got to, But here's the thing, though. If the court has already said nothing on there is relevant, I don't understand why you would keep it.
It's the court doesn't make that decision. The prosecutor doesn't get to make that decision. If it was collected as evidence, once it's collected as evidence, it remains evidence until the closing of the case.
Court documents indicate the Attorney General's office processed the evidence but said the files weren't relevant. So that court documents say the files weren't relevant.
Right.
But it's the AG's office saying it within the court documents.
Right. The court's not saying it's not relevant.
Right.
The AG's office is saying, now, let's play this out. I collect a bunch of evidence in a search warrant, and I do an analysis, and I say, yeah, there was nothing on those hard drives. I don't need to keep them. Well, so if you're not going to keep the hard drives, guess who gets the hard drives back? It's not the government's property.
No, it's Dennis and Cynthia Perkins'
They get
property.
the hard drives back.
No, yeah.
Which, again, where's the hard drives?
Well, if I'm Dennis and Cynthia Perkins, I'm throwing them away.
No, not if they don't have any bad evidence on there.
Well,
Like, assuming that the hard drives don't have a video of Dennis and Cynthia with a mule or donkey or whatever animal of choice they. I'm not judging.
Right.
I guess I am. I wouldn't throw them away.
You got no reason to keep them either.
But that's,
and if you throw them away,
what you keep and not keep that's your property, no one else gets to decide that
Right.
except for you.
so if it's deemed not relevant, both sides agree that it's not relevant.
Who gets to
So,
make that
well,
decision?
and that's not covered in this either.
Yeah.
Do they go through evidence to say what is and isn't relevant? Hey, Jarrett, can we agree that we don't have to keep?
So watch this. Watch this. Hard drives that don't have illicit materials on it, for someone who's alleged to have a bunch of illicit materials all over the place and have done horrible things, is it exculpatory? Is it evidence?
That's what I'm asking. Can a defense attorney and a prosecutor agree on?
I'm not Jared Ambo, so I'm not going to crawl into his brain and say
Like-
how I would defend it. I'm just saying this creates an issue where there was no issue.
If you could say, like, have they? I tell you what, if I'm Jared Ambo, my next stop, I'm going through everything that's ever been in their kitchen.
Right.
Oh, well, there's no DNA on
So,
this baking dish,
so you know
so
what-
clearly they
how
didn't use
does-
this baking
how does
pan
this
to make their
normally work?
cupcakes, so it's now no longer evidence. Oh, well, then where'd the baking pan go?
So BRPD, good example. How does this rear its head? There was a cell phone seized during the search. It's missing, and then all of a sudden, cell phone is found where? On a law enforcement officer.
Well, so if that's how it plays out, that changes the thing altogether.
Right, but we don't know.
Right.
And you don't know what
so
you don't
that
know.
wouldn't be missing. That would be stolen.
We don't know.
I know.
And guess what?
But you're going to close the book on this like this is 100% the AG's fault.
So no, here's the thing though.
Or the Linux parent. This is not the
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 way
AG's
burden
fault.
of proof goes is Jared doesn't have to, and the defense doesn't have to explain where it is.
Right.
The government has to. It's their burden of proof.
Right.
Whether it was stolen, misplaced, incompetence, malfeasance, whatever, Ambo, the defense gets to sit back and say, thank you for the chaos.
Yes. And oh, by the way, if it is stolen, it has no bearing on Dennis and Cynthia Perkins' guilt, but will have bearing on the outcome of the trial.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That is the absurdity.
My apologies to your kids if your kids are next.
Who do you blame? Who do you want to be mad at? Law
The person.
enforcement.
No.
Law enforcement.
See, that's
You got to be mad at the law enforcement agency.
not if
that didn't
another
secure
crime
this.
was committed to cover up the first crime.
You're going to be mad at. Wait, hold on.
If the
Are you going to be mad if they don't convict based on the loss of two hard drives? You're going to be mad at Cynthia and Dennis Perkins? Or are you going to be mad at the law enforcement officer that didn't secure the evidence?
well, you're going to be
You
mad.
had one job to do.
You're going to be mad at the attorney general no matter how it plays out.
It's because this town deserves a better attorney general. All right, I'm out.
Later, bro. Hey, Go Rouge is live this week, right? Yes. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's me. If it's not me, it's Chuck. I'm 90% sure it's me. I don't know. A caller said apparently an LSU baseball player is giving back his scholarship money because he has so much NIL money. I wonder which baseball player. Probably Dylan Cruz. Hey, most baseball players. So this is where it's going to pay huge dividends. Is baseball players don't get full scholarships. Most baseball players will get like a quarter of a scholarship. That way you can make the scholarships go further. So, oh, yeah, this is going to be huge. If you can get more baseball players spread around giving your scholarships to the guys that would otherwise be walk-ons, you can totally change the game.
I forget the law that was made in the 80s for scholarships. Is it you have to give the same amount of scholarship money across both genders in a college, or is it the same amount of scholarships? to
Number of
different people?
scholarships.
Okay.
But it's not 100% equal, though, because football dominates so much.
Exactly.
.706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I tell you, if you could do a full hour on any one topic, it would be the Dennis and Cynthia Perkins topic. Weekly, apparently. A ton of comments on our YouTube stream. If you're not there, check it out. Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there. Oh, man. Let me dig through a couple of these before we move on. Byron says the bigger question is, why does the average person think of... Oh, no, that's going back to our NIL topic. Where was the one that I really wanted to get to? Here it is. Troy says it doesn't matter who is responsible or is not responsible for missing evidence. Bottom line is the prosecutors have to live with the consequences. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why the mafia, in the movies and whatnot, intimidates witnesses. Which is why Tony Soprano would have somebody killed, or Uncle Junior would have somebody killed. Like, that burden of everything falls on the prosecution here. My point is it has absolutely no bearing on the guilt or innocence of those who are accused. Franz said it himself. Chaos. Chaos is what you're looking for. Chaos rules supreme. And yes, that is the system that we have. I'd just like to know if there's a better way to run that system. It's worth asking that question once in a while, is it not? All right. That was all last hour. If you missed it, it'll be available on demand at talk1073.com, or, and I highly, highly recommend this version, go to our YouTube page, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube, and go ahead and watch it, because we did not stop with the breaks. We did not stop when we had the Your Money Now. We did not stop when we got the news. And by the way, be sure to check out Go Rouge, Friday at 6. Attorney Franz Borghardt hosts his Go Rouge show. I believe I'm producing it this week. I want to say I am. I hope I am. Another great episode will be in store for you right at the Jada Cody Show on Friday afternoon. This hour, Veneeth Iyengar is coming up in our next segment. DC Current with Congressman Garret Graves coming your way after that. Right now, I got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations, one on Plank Road in Zachary, one on Perkins just east of Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. I got into a little bit of a fender bender last year. Took my vehicle to Complete Collision Center. Totally my fault. I mean, it was a one-vehicle accident. I backed into a light pole. Yeah, I know, it happens. I was in a parking lot for my kids' daycare. Did not want to have my eyes on anything but where other kids might be, and, well, missed the light pole. Or hit the light pole. Anyway, went over to Complete Collision Center. I was amazed with the level of thoroughness, the level of care, the level of attention paid by Doug and his team at Complete Collision Center. Not just about, buff that right out. None of that. You get down underneath the bumper. You get down to finding hidden damage. You get down to finding what actually broke, what can be fixed, what needs to be replaced. Doug and his team pay very close attention to making sure hidden damage is repaired safely. Getting your car back on the road safely. That's motto number 1 over there. iCar Gold Class certification, certified by more than a dozen major car manufacturers. Learn more at CompleteCollision.com. Call them 768-9898, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. A massive decades-old pile of trash hidden behind the Burden Botanical Gardens off Essen is no longer the city's dirty little secret after it served as the meeting place for several state officials Tuesday. The governor, the lieutenant governor, East Baton Rouge Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome, and other community advocates announced a new task force dedicated to eradicating the state's litter problem. This task force will work to find policy solutions, educate the public, and promote community litter abatement activities. The goal is to have a set of recommendations in place by July 1st. Some people don't want to wait that long. You've seen numerous efforts within the community as folks are just going out and picking up litter, taking the problem on their own. Police detectives and U.S. Marshals arrested a man suspected of killing someone back in December. Baton Rouge police said 26-year-old Jacody Spann was arrested in connection with the murder of 25-year-old Brandon Williams. Officers said Williams was arguing with Spann before it turned violent. Williams was found dead at an apartment complex on Lobdell near North Ardenwood on December 8th. Spann was booked for second-degree murder and illegal use of weapons. A Baton Rouge Fire Department employee shot a burglar trying to break into his truck Tuesday, officials said, and the story gets a little bit crazier than that. The shooting was reported around 11:45 a.m. on Eddie Robinson Drive. Officials said an arson investigator with the Baton Rouge Fire Department confronted a nude man who was trying to break into his department vehicle. The suspect was shot during the confrontation, taken to a hospital with serious injuries. Sources said there was a weapon inside the vehicle at the time. Fire department said that employee was on duty and has been placed on administrative leave. The Baton Rouge Police Department is investigating the incident. Shooting comes after a rash of violence in the city a day earlier, which left 9 people hurt and 3 people dead. This is just a timing thing, not any kind of actual correlation along with that. That's how it happened. By the way, did I mention he was nude? 10 more people in the hospital. That's the number. Went into the holiday weekend, the Martin Luther King Day weekend, with 2,173 COVID patients in Louisiana hospitals. Come out of the weekend, 2,183 COVID patients in the hospitals. If you saw the new numbers from the Louisiana Department of Hospitals yesterday, 29,125 new cases were reported. Bear in mind, you got to divide that by 4 if you want to get a daily count. 1,025,748 total cases since the beginning of the pandemic. 58 new deaths were reported yesterday, but the big number out of all of that is only 10 more people in the hospital over the course of 4 days. That is a significant downturn from the previous 2.5 to 3 weeks. Oh, we probably should have gotten into this with attorney Franz Borghardt as well. Former LSU football coach Ed Ogeron and 13 others have been dropped from a high-profile lawsuit that accuses LSU officials of ignoring cases of gender discrimination and sexual misconduct on campus. 10 current and former LSU students are plaintiffs in the April 2021 lawsuit against the university, but while the lawsuit previously named 19 defendants connected to the school, the plaintiffs' attorneys whittled that list down to 5 in an amended complaint Monday. The remaining defendants are the LSU Board of Supervisors, Executive Deputy Athletic Director Virg Osbury, Senior Associate Athletic Director Miriam Seeger, and former Title IX Coordinator Jenny Stewart, as well as the Associate Dean of Students Jonathan Sanders. Others dropped from the lawsuit include LSU's women's tennis coaches Julia and Michael Sell, Associate AD Sharon Lewis. Lewis is the plaintiff in a separate retaliation lawsuit against LSU. The lawsuit still takes issue with Ogeron's alleged misconduct, even though it no longer names him as a defendant. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. The Biden administration on Tuesday quietly launched its website for Americans to request free at-home COVID-19 tests a day before the site was scheduled to go online officially. The website covidtest.gov now includes a link for Americans to access an order form run by the U.S. Postal Service. People can order 4 at-home tests per residential address to be delivered by the Postal Service. It'll take 7 to 12 days to get them out to you if you're ordering through the USPS, which reports shipping times of 1 to 3 days for its first-class package service in the continental United States. Those are your top stories in trending. Taking a break. When we come back, we're talking gumbo. No, we're not talking chicken and sausage. We're talking broadband access. Veneeth Iyengar is in studio next. Yo!
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. How you doing?
Good. There's a lot of gumbo and fiber.
There's a lot of what?
There's a lot of
Fiber and gumbo.
There's a lot of fiber optics.
You good?
Yeah.
Good. So this was what you had sent me.
Yes.
$440 million.
So in the Baton Rouge area, I think there was $90 million worth of projects
Wow.
submitted by, I think, 10 companies. When we talk about Baton Rouge area, we're talking about the metropolitan area.
9 parish.
Yeah.
I just always assume is this based more off of like where the chamber would line up or where LDH would line up?
Oh, I think chamber.
Because LDH has got the different regions for.
That's a good question. I mean, I think
They're close.
It's
The
the
difference
same.
is Livingston.
We
Livingston's
include-
actually on the
we
North Shore.
include- We would
Okay.
include Livingston, like Livingston, West Feliciana, East Feliciana.
So we'll probably attack this from a little more of a local aspect than overall.
Yeah. But this is a good sign, though. It shows the demand.
50 to
Oversubscribed.
64. That is 3 more parishes than wanted online gambling or sports betting.
Well,
You beat sports betting by 3.
That is true.
Oh man, is that the wrong way to approach the topic?
It is. a little bit.
Okay, I might.
But look, if people have broadband, they can do more sports betting. See, I'll tell you, it's what you do with it
Right,
once you get it.
right. Give me that Venn diagram because there's going to be some holdovers.
When you get people, you can make more money with online, gambling. You guys have a busy day?
Yeah, I got Rotary on Wednesdays. So, oh, you mean the show itself?
Oh, I mean,
yeah,
in general.
slammed. Yeah, overall pretty. 717 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. All right, so Connect LA receiving $440 million in funding requests for the first round of gumbo. Now, when we're talking about gumbo, we're not talking about chicken and sausage. You might start with a roux. You start everything with a roux. Don't know if that applies, but we're talking actually about granting unserved municipalities broadband opportunities.
Well, it is, first of all, gumbo weather.
It is gumbo weather. Not, well, the rest of today, maybe not, but tomorrow and into the weekend.
Friday, Thursday, Friday. That's right.
Time to welcome back into the show, Veneeth Iyengar. Veneeth, how you been?
Good.
Good?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, glad to have you on here. Always looking for an excuse to call you.
Yeah.
But we've got plenty to talk about, so that adds up as well. I got to start here, though. Is there, like, one guru who names all these things? Is there, like, one, like, somewhere along the way, the same guy who writes the jokes in Laffy Taffy is coming up with all granting unserved municipalities broadband opportunities?
So that's really the Gumbo Act that the governor signed June 29th.
Okay.
That's administrating this money.
Mm-hmm.
But that Gumbo name was created by Representative Daryl Desatel, who you've had on the show last year.
Yeah, we had Daryl on during the session when he was pushing this.
Right. So obviously we're Louisiana, we're a bunch of creative people. So it makes sense to create gumbo as opposed to a state broadband grant program.
I'm just always curious as to how many man hours went into the name because it's so perfect.
It is, and it's appropriate.
It is appropriate.
That's right.
Because, well, I mean, like a good gumbo, you're bringing so much richness to every underserved area. All right.
That's right.
So total funding, $440 million. 58 out of 64 parishes have seen applications.
Yeah.
Will this 440 cover all 58 parishes worth of applications?
No.
Okay.
So this is the way it works. So, and this is where it could get confusing to folks. So there are 3 distinct funding programs, federally funded programs, focused on addressing largely the same issue, which is taking care of people that don't have any internet, and then taking care of people that have decent internet, but it needs to get better.
Okay.
And then taking care of people in community anchor institutions, right? And that's especially relevant, especially during hurricane season when we need to make sure like the town halls, public safety entities have internet and really good internet. So 90 million, this pot of money, it's really 177 million that's coming from the America Rescue Plan that President Biden signed last March. The state's allocation for broadband is 177 million. The legislature authorized 90 million. And so what we've done is executed the first round of that 177 million, which is 90 million for gumbo.
Okay.
Now, that is a gumbo of numbers. So my point is with this is we have 90 million right now, and we had $450 million in request. I think what's really encouraging to us is the fact that he had 57, 58 out of the 64 parishes where there are projects represented.
Right.
So this isn't skewed south of I-10, only the parishes. It's It's an awesome distribution of parishes throughout the state. But also, and equally important, is that we strongly encouraged each of the applicants for the money, which is either the private sector ISP or a co-op, to partner with LCTCS to develop workforce plans. So we don't want to be reactive at the moment we make these awards, that we're scrambling to find people to build these networks, and then we have to pull people from Texas and other states. So they've all developed workforce plans with LCTCS. The
Is LCTCS like widespread enough to cover as much as what's needed for this?
So it's interesting. LCTCS has either a
Louisiana Community and Technical College
So
system.
Dr. Monty Sullivan and the folks, they're in actually 57 out of 64 parishes.
Really?
Yeah. Either they have a physical presence or they're administering programs in all of those parishes.
Okay.
So, in fact, they have a fiber optics class in Monroe, Louisiana that they've launched. They're launching one in sort of the Acadiana region. So this is going to only ramp up. It's going to create great jobs for everyone.
No, absolutely. In a field where new training is always needed, but needed especially right now, and it's going to carry over more. These aren't like construction jobs where you only have them when they
well,
pop
there
up.
is going to be construction jobs involved.
100%.
But then it's going to be, once you've constructed it, the operations and the maintenance are going to be equally value-added jobs that are going to be created as a result of all this money.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just talking about the American Rescue Plan. Then there's the infrastructure bill. Right?
Okay.
The infrastructure bill that was signed, I think, November 15th, the way that works for broadband is that every state gets $100 million. So California gets 100, we get 100, Rhode Island gets 100, so everyone gets 100. And so your listeners are scratching their head and saying, is that it? The answer is no.
Right.
So based off accurate maps that the Federal Communications Commission creates on who has internet, who doesn't have internet, then we will get a significant escalator on that $100 million.
Basically, success is going to breed more money.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's important to get it right on the front end.
Correct.
All these we're talking about are statewide. Can we narrow the conversation down to just our region for a second, just down to the Baton Rouge area, our listening area? Because I think we're kind of a microcosm of what we're going to see everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether you talk about the Felicianas, where you're going to have more distance between homes.
Right.
Baton Rouge, where you're going to have more of an urban setting.
Yeah.
Or like, let's say Livingston Parish, some of the low-lying areas
Yeah.
in Livingston, where you're going to have more swamp, more water to deal with,
Right.
more cypress trees you
Right,
got to either dig up or go around. We get a nice sampling of all of it right here.
Yeah, so we had 10 companies representing $90 million worth of projects representing the Baton Rouge metro area that applied for this first round of gumbo money. And so we're going to go through an evaluation process, and our goal is to announce those awards mid to end of March, so in the next couple of months.
Okay.
In EBR, the challenges around broadband really has to do with largely, if you're talking about access and people not having it, we're talking about the areas in north of EBR bordering the Felicianas, right? That where access is a problem. In other parts of EBR, there's a lot of folks that can't afford it. So even if they have access, it's still expensive. And there's a lot of people that lack the digital literacy to understand what to do with it.
Digital literacy. So we're going to have to tackle that next, obviously. But getting it installed, I think, is first and foremost.
Correct.
Here's a good question that I don't think I've asked yet. How many of us already have it?
So this is where it becomes tricky. I'll tell you how many people don't have it, and then we can work backwards. So in Louisiana, 1.5 million or 1.6 million people do not have internet.
Right.
Because of one of four reasons. They can't afford it, they don't have access, they lack digital literacy, and they don't have a device. So in EBR, when we think about not having access to internet, we're talking about a substantial number of people that just can't afford it.
Okay.
And I think 20,000 or so people received benefit from the FCC, Federal Communications Commission's emergency broadband benefit program, which helps to pay for your broadband bills. But it's really an affordability challenge in EBR as opposed to an access problem and a digital literacy. So when we think about the digital divide that we have to solve, when we think about the internet problem, it's not just access. Because I'll tell you, and I've said this publicly, it is a busted investment if we make all this investment in addressing access and people still can't afford it.
Yes, but at the same time, though, for those of us that can barely afford it and are looking for a little bit of help on the back end, It's going to cause a little bit of I don't want to say anger, but dissension. I mean, the normal pushback you see.
Right. So on the affordability side, in the infrastructure bill, there is a program called the FCC Affordable Connectivity Program, which helps those families that really need help in paying their broadband bills to receive $30 a month off your broadband bills.
Whoa! Okay.
Yeah. And it's a 5-minute process. It's easy to apply. And if you follow certain eligibility criteria, for instance, if a member in your household has a student Pell Grant, which I think most, if not a lot of folks would have that, then they can apply and get $30 a month off their broadband bills in that household.
See, going to have to look that one up.
Correct.
We just had AT&T roll through our neighborhood laying fiber everywhere.
Yeah.
So from an access standpoint, there's a lot of area that is already good to go.
Right.
The educational standpoint is going to be, I think, a bigger, a tougher hill to climb than the affordability standpoint.
Yeah, so everyone, look, the sexy stuff is to talk about access and affordability. The thing's a little bit more amorphous is the digital literacy side. It is, so we're working actually with the Board of Regents to pilot out a program in a couple of parishes where we could leverage the local public library system to drive digital literacy instruction. What's interesting is in a lot of parishes, when we traveled around the state and we talked to family members, a lot of them would often lean on their local public librarian to serve as their Best Buy Geek Squad.
Yes.
If you don't have a kid in the household who's in high school, they would often rely on their local public librarian, which makes sense. So that's why we're going to roll some programs out with the Board of Regents in the next couple of months.
So that's one, you say that's less sexy, but to me, that's going to be the breaking point as to y'all's level of success.
Correct. Because if the folks don't fully appreciate what you could do with broadband as opposed to because of it, then they're not going to be the ones who's going to eventually pay for that service.
You're going to hear a lot of things like, I've been on this earth for 70 years, haven't needed it yet, don't need it now.
Look, we're going to get people access. Now, whether they pay for it, it's a personal choice, and that's up to them. You're going to have people that don't need it, and they're perfectly fine. And so as long as our litmus test is we're getting that person access, it's their then individual responsibility to see if they want to pay for it.
Well, so I'm guessing, and this is totally non sequitur, but like literacy in this regard is going to look a lot like vaccination numbers. You're going to see a huge boost first, and then it's going to taper off but slowly climb.
Yeah. So on the literacy, that's why we need to incentivize folks to do it, right? I think partly when you're frustrated with the literacy piece, if you go through a class, you need to continue to reinforce those principles that you've learned in that class in terms of literacy. So does that mean that once you graduate from that literacy program, which is a couple of hours, that we hand over a device to that individual, right? As an incentive, so that they're always using something from a reinforcing principle to continue to learn about all things literacy. But I'll tell you what's interesting.
What?
Dollar General, for instance, no longer uses paper coupons. It's all digital.
Yeah.
So partly you're beginning to see the shift towards less paper, more digital.
Are we going to get through an interview about broadband without Dollar General coming up? They just keep popping up. They just keep popping up.
Look, the reason is because I was just on the phone with them a couple of days ago, and they were talking about some really cool things they're working on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having a call with them February 4th to talk about some stuff.
We're probably going to pick that conversation up again later because they have the potential to be very integral throughout this whole process.
Yep.
Got 1 minute left before we get you out of here, and we always appreciate your time, Veneeth. 1 minute left. So the money that's in Baton Rouge, we can start to get allocation of these dollars by March. Or within March.
So what we're going to do with, at least for this gumbo, this $90 million that we have in the first round, is announce the awards mid to end of March, and then hopefully construction beginning by Memorial Day.
Okay. All right. And I tell you what, the next time I have you on, I will have come up with an acronym for either jambalaya or etouffee to like back time it into the whole thing.
You know what? We're going to have to create more programs with this infrastructure bill coming up. So let's come up. We'll have to. That's going to be a little bit more complex than gumbo. But
we can retrofit sauce piquant into an acronym for your program.
That's right.
He is Veneeth Iyengar. We always appreciate the time, man. It's great news.
Take care.
We got Congressman Garret Graves coming your way in our next segment. More Ganson to the Gulf. We got an announcement there and a couple of other things that are brewing right now. We will dive into that next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Coming up next hour, busy next hour as well. What's the weather going to look like over the next 36 hours? It's going to get nasty. It's going to get cold again. Dr. Josh Eachus at 8:15. And we're talking a little bit about COVID and immunity with Dr. Henry Barham before we close out the show. Right now, here's CBS News. So, damn it, I don't have it yet. All right.
Okay.
So, let's get you back on once the money's starting to get doled out, because that's when we'll start to see.
We could get together mid to end of March.
Okay.
That's what we're getting out the first.
Well, that's when you actually see people working, or setting the table for people
Setting
working.
the table, right.
Yeah.
And then I think by Memorial Day is when people start to see construction.
Okay. The physical infrastructure of it is one thing. It's it's all the little minutia questions. Like, do I have to sign up for something? Am I going to have to relearn how to work my own Wi-Fi in my house?
See, that is the digital literacy challenge. Because
Right.
printer is not working. Mom and dad has to do a telehealth visit.
Right.
It's like, my camera doesn't turn on. Son, well, if you don't have a kid, how do I turn on the camera? You miss your appointment. So that's why it's critical that we at least get some folks, at least competency in basic literacy.
Well,
how do you check out a book online? How do you pay your bills online?
I'm assuming. Oh, by the way, that word incentive. It's gonna.
Well,
there's a level of expecting adults to do some adulting.
I know, but the carrot and the stick is you do this, but I'll tell you, devices are a big problem. There's 260,000 people in Louisiana that don't have a smartphone. They can't get a device.
Yeah, and then there's.
That's why it's such a complex problem, because in every parish the problems are different. In East Carroll, it's going to be an access, affordability, literacy all at the same time.
Yeah.
Tackle. In EBR, it's going to be affordability. And literacy.
Yeah. But
we'll have enough money in the infrastructure bill.
get ready for all the questions like, well, if I have this much access in my home, why are we still paying for public libraries? Get ready for those discussions to be had.
Yeah.
Because it's a legit question. There's probably answers for it, but municipalities are going to have to take on a lot when it comes to this sort of thing. So, and it's going to change the way we handle business.
Yes. I mean, look, it's changed the way we've dealt through the pandemic.
100%.
All right, man.
Supposed to have gotten another. Hang on one second. Sorry. All right. So mid-March,
Mid-March.
we got you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Good.
Appreciate you.
All right. If you guys need anything, let me know.
Always, brother.
All right. Thanks.
Have a good one, Veneeth. Hey, there it is. All right. Ooh.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
More than 1 in 3 people will face cancer in their lifetime. Unfortunately, fear can stop you from getting your cancer screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear to act. Cancer screening is safe, effective, and accessible for everyone, including free or low-cost screening programs. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com right now for free screening resources and donations from the American Cancer Society. Don't wait. Early detection can
All right, YouTube. I haven't been over there in a little bit. I've had a ton of notes in my phone, so I had to click over. I need to get a separate monitor over here and just have the YouTube stream going all the time. I could use the viewers. Right there, I've got WBRZ, LDH, my email, and my clock. Yeah, it'd be a lot more toggling. I need more monitors. That's Jay's. Okay. Crap. 736 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hey, thanks again to Veneeth Iyengar for hopping on board to talk a little bit about broadband and where we're headed with that, and really just how quickly this is all going to ramp up. I mean, he said mid to late March, you will start to see the first allocations going out. And during the break, I don't know if you could hear it on YouTube or not, but during the break, around Memorial Day is when you'll start to see, shovels in the ground or actual fiber being out there. It's going to be such an uphill battle, but this will change so many different ways that we handle business in Louisiana. By the way, waiting on Congressman Garret Graves to connect with us here. We've got a stack of topics to talk about with the Congressman. There's a lot of government money coming to, or federal government money coming back to Louisiana for a lot of really different purposes, really different great purposes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But back to the broadband thing, it's going to change the way we view just about everything from, interestingly enough, a municipal government standpoint. If I've got broadband in my home and we make sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, has access to broadband, are we still going to fund public libraries? If I have an entire library in my home and that's already paid for, and the device used to access is paid for by the government as well, and the knowledge with which to use it has already been covered as well, then what exactly are we doing here? Why are we double dipping like that just to spend money? The folks that work at libraries are going to have a big fight on their hands in the very near future. And the folks that are paying out of their own pocket versus the ones that can't afford it, the ones that can't afford it are still going to need it, probably going to need it more. But at the same time, though, remember when President at the time, Obama, was handing out free phones? The Obama phones were everywhere, which they were like the little flip phones. They were garbage, but they gave people access to communication. Remember how up in arms everyone was? Not everyone, but remember how up in arms so many different people were in regards to that? Damn it, I pay for my phone every month. Why do they get it for free? It's not the government's job to give you a phone. Get ready for those arguments to be out there on steroids. And the crazy thing is, with the way our world has changed, both sides are going to have legitimate arguments here. Those that are asking the question of why do I bust my hump every day to pay my own bills when someone else can just have it for free has a legitimate argument. Meanwhile, as all of our needs and services shift to a virtual or an online standpoint, those that are in dire need of it will have a good argument as well, or those that want to provide it to those who need it will have a good argument as well. And then there's just no way to account for how many people are going to fall into that category of, I've been on this earth for 75 years. Haven't needed it yet, don't need it now. And what will those effects be? Anyway, still waiting on Congressman Garret Graves. Wonder where he's at this morning. He's got, we've got a slew of things. Oh, there he is right there. All right. We got a slew of things to talk about with the Congressman. Press release sent out this morning. Congressman Garret Graves announces over $2.5 billion in new hurricane protection, flood control, and other Louisiana projects on the Corps' list, funded by Hurricane Ida recovery legislation. Here to break it down, as he joins us every single Wednesday, is Congressman Garret Graves. Congressman, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Doing okay. Got some pretty good news over the past few days. So I'll take this one as pretty good day.
Yeah, I will as well. I was looking at a press release from, I believe, yesterday, talking about just Morganza to the Gulf, or Graves and Scalise statements on the Morganza to the Gulf milestone. But we got to blow right past that. There's a new lead. That lead is now $2.5 billion. Let's break this down, and I want to start with the one that everybody asks me about when I have you on every single week. Let's start with Comeet diversion.
Yeah. So the Comeet project, Brian, as you know, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. The project slipped from 2 years of construction to 3 years of construction. There have been issues with getting some utility relocations done that have just been really causing some incredible delays. And unacceptable delays. Yeah. And I think that the project's schedule is going to likely slip beyond even that 3-year time frame, which, look, I'll just say it again, this is just inexcusable. This project's been around since the 1980s. There's been ample time to go through and find all of these issues that need to be addressed. But look, here's the good news. We were facing a funding shortfall on the project because of some cost overruns, because of inflation issues and others that potentially was going to prevent this project from being finished. And I remind you, we came in and dug up $392 million after this project's been sitting there dormant for decades effectively, pulled up $392 million, got this project started. It was fully funded moving forward, and we were about to run into another brick wall, so we secured another $128 million, bringing this project to well in excess of $500 million to make sure that we don't run out of funds, that we get this project completed, and hopefully get it back on track as quickly as possible. And just to remind you and everybody, this project helps to provide pretty substantial flood protection to East Baton Rouge, Livingston, and Ascension parishes.
Yes, and it proves we see on a darn near weekly basis of its need, as well as every time a big storm rolls through, but especially when something like what rolled through Baton Rouge last May is just another example of why it's needed. And like you said, since the 80s, I mean, at this point, pushing back another couple months, it's equal parts apathy and relief at the same time, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, just so frustrated that you can see a project that I'm convinced we could have built for, a fraction of this cost, just continue to have skyrocketing prices, and of course all the inflation we're facing right now, and the supply chain issues aren't helping. But the bottom line is, people deserve this. They deserved it decades ago, and we got to get it finished.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just I'm a glass half full guy with the Comeet thing at this point, because the other way around is frustrating. So any movement, any progress at all, I'm willing to take. Morganza to the Gulf, $379 million. Is headed this way for this project. What does that go to?
Well, so this project, another one, dates back to 1992. This project provides hurricane protection for Terrebonne Parish and portions of Lafourche Parish over on that west side of Lafourche Parish as well. And it's just been out there kind of stagnant in regard to the federal government. When I was working for the state and others, we ended up pulling together about $1 billion through flipping over couches and garage sales and other things. But this, we were able to break the logjam on the federal funding moratorium for this project last year, and now we're just adding to it. This is going to help to provide this Humboldt Canal floodgate. It's going to help provide a levee area between Lockport and LaRose. I'm going to be addressing gates on the Gulf Intracoastal Waterway. So a number of really important features of this project that are just key features to build on the success that's been made so far by some of the investments that the Levee District and others have been able to pull together. So really just good news that it's a big chunk of funds. But Brian, I got to tell you, this one's a little bittersweet. And I'm gonna nerd out a little bit, but you look at this project, things like dredging that's needed on the Houma Navigation Canal and Bayou Lafourche, those projects were not properly funded. Morganza should have received more money. The way we wrote the bill, they should have received in excess of $500 million. They're put this in perspective, they're only getting $378 million, but under the way the law was written, they should have received well over $500 million. Those dredging projects should have received funds. And this goes back to what you and I talked about months ago. In the president's budget documents, he had these things about they weren't going to fund projects that benefited oil and gas production. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing right here. This is us being discriminated against. And look, I don't want to sneeze at $2.5 billion, some really important projects in here, but another project that was left on the cutting room floor was the Baton Rouge Area Flood Control Project, otherwise known as the Five Bayous Project. That project needed a substantial infusion. We had asked them to fund it, and it was similarly left off the list. So some good investments in here, but look, it's a little bittersweet in regard to some of the projects that were not funded.
The oil and gas aspect of this, if that's how it actually has played out, is infuriating, because that you're talking about things that will influence people whether they're involved with oil and gas or not.
Look, bottom line, you got to do what is rational, what makes sense, and in this case, you're going to have a 50% global increase in energy demand, and why not have that energy come from Louisiana, where we do it safely, versus coming from these other countries? It just doesn't make sense. But look, $378 million for Morganza, Comey $128 million, $453 million additional funds, bringing that project total for West Shore, which is in the river parishes, brings the project total to over $1.2 billion. We're going to go through all this stuff, but this adds to the approximately $6 billion that we've been able to bring in new infrastructure investments. And the greatest thing about this, Brian, this is taking projects that folks long wrote off or have been dormant for decades, and just really getting these projects from off the shelf or this dormant stage to actually building things, making a difference. So really excited about some of this progress. I mean, this even provides dredging funds for Mississippi River, $42 million to make sure that our ports can keep operating, helping out with supply chain issues and the competitiveness of the ports along the Mississippi River. $33 million to dredge the Atchafalaya, plus I think it was over $100 million. I think it was about $163 million for investments in the Atchafalaya Basin, everything from flood control to floodgates. I mean, just some really big wins in here for Louisiana as a result of that legislation that we drafted a few months ago.
Got about 60 seconds left with Congressman Garret Graves. I want to skip to the bottom of the list for something that impacts Ascension and East Baton Rouge directly. That's $4.25 million for sewer investments. What got that ball rolling, and where does it go specific? Well, this is something that's hitting home with us.
Yeah, Brian, this one's been flying under the radar for a while, but we have made millions and millions of dollars in investments in wastewater improvements in Ascension, Livingston, and East Baton Rouge parishes through a Corps of Engineer. It's a very obscure Corps of Engineer program called Environmental Infrastructure. We have been putting every single year $1 million, $2 million, $5 million into these projects, and so this is going to be about $3.5 million for Ascension Parish, and it's going to be about $750,000 for East Baton Rouge Parish for some additional sewer improvements, and that complements some of the larger work that's been going on in those two parishes for years now. But look, when you go back and add it up, I mean, this is well over $10 million in wastewater improvements, just helping to get our sewer fixes needed, helping prevent some of the overflows that we've seen in just disgusting circumstances in some cases. So this is certainly a good one. It's been flying under the radar for a while, but something that's been badly needed.
He is Congressman Garret Graves, joins us every week for DC Current. We always appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
You do the same. Here comes your money now. All right. Looks like I got a bunch of comments I haven't gotten to yet, so let's do that now. Does the digital literacy effort include helping those in North Louisiana learn to count their fingers and toes? No. All they need is thumbs to get on a smartphone, though. Galen says, I'm incredulous. $500 million to build out a rural broadband network to a customer base that mostly will not buy. Use the $500 million as a down payment on an additional I-10 bridge in Baton Rouge. It's not the worst idea. I mean, that's a damn good idea. You want to talk about helping in times of a hurricane evacuation? Yeah, how about that? Although the money's there for another bridge, money's not the problem. It's getting it done. Tater salad would be an easy and appropriate acronym to compliment gumbo. I like it. What is the price of broadband? Companies are getting subsidies while prices are rising. So the price of broadband is one of... Eventually, the conversation is going to be had, and I just don't have the time in my day to dive into this from start to finish. But what are the number of things that the government is calling free right now that is not, and it's going to do nothing to curtail the cost of it to themselves? Right now, if you log on to, I forget the name of the website, but we had it in Top Stories and Trending, you can order an at-home testing kit for COVID. Up to 4 kits per house, right? Or tests for up to 4 people per house. For free. The government didn't get those for free. They're buying them from somewhere. Right now, you go to get yourself a COVID shot or a COVID booster, you're not paying for it out of pocket, but somebody's paying for it. Right now, you do anything involving COVID, and it's not going to cost you dollars out of pocket, so it appears free. But it's coming from somewhere. Same thing with the broadband. Same thing with electric vehicles. Like, there's a great bit of our own discernment, our own control slipping away. I don't blame you for being incredulous.
Picture this. You're trying to hire someone or buy something, and you click on their website, but it takes forever to load. And looks,
Byron says, stop thinking this way. You'll never be able to run for public office. It's like the Michael Keaton Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Who do you trust? I'm giving out free money. Galen, LOL, you're right, B. My limited thinking about how to spend other people's money is not vast enough for me to be in charge of the state treasury. Hey, for what it's worth, our state treasurer tries to give us back our own money. Visit the unclaimed property website, which really should be advertising here. I've been involved in building out a broadband network at ETEL. These rookies have no idea what they're talking about, and they are listening to vendors' claims. Do not build your own network. Only place I disagree there is calling Veneeth a rookie at anything. The dude studies more than Joe Burrow studies defense. We need our libraries. The services they provide helps in every age, race, and financial status. Nina, go back to the top of the conversation, though. Every age, what was it? Every age, race, and financial status is supposed to be covered with broadband. Can't afford it? Doesn't matter. We're going to find a way to provide it. Don't understand it? Doesn't matter. We're going to find literacy for you. You're 100 years old or you're 12 years old. Doesn't matter. We're going to make sure you're included with the overall broadband discussion, and it's going to be at no cost to you. It's free money. Okay, so we've done all of that. You now have all the services of the library on your phone or on your laptop or on your computer or on your tablet. What do we need the actual library for now? It's not an unheard of thing to say, let's throw that away. And oh, by the way, the Council on Aging, your days are numbered. Your days are numbered because there's going to be better ways to provide those services as well. And yeah, as Starlink grows, watch the marriage between Starlink and Tesla start to grow. And combine that in with Meals on Wheels and cats. Forget about it. We have to stop thinking about things in a limited capacity. Is my next one my Thurns, or did I miss one? Oh, yeah. Morning to Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again for Congressman Garret Graves for hopping on board. Thanks again to Veneeth Iyengar for really Really swatting a hornet's nest with a stick. Check us out on our YouTube page, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Tons of feedback coming in. Oh, how the conversation is going to change when it comes to the actual job of what our government is and every layer and level underneath. I'll tell you what, we'll have plenty of time to dive into that as we move towards the implementation of the broadband, or the gumbo, as it were. Going to get you to the outside in just a minute. Do have to tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. If you don't yet have lunch plans, if it's been a minute since you've been by Mooyah, now's the time. Well, not now. Maybe 3.5 hours from now. Yeah, once lunch starts setting in, once you start getting a little bit of hungry, swing by Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. They've got 2 locations. One is on Seagan, just north of Industrialplex. Sorry, a little mind blank there for a second. The other is Blue Bonnet at Highland Road. You're going to find the same great service at both locations. You're going to find the same great burgers at both locations. You're going to find the same great milkshakes at locations. Yeah, enjoy a little milkshake with lunch. Indulge. Get yourself a burger. Get yourself some fries. Go sweet potato fries and ask them for some honey to dip it in. That's a game changer. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. 2 locations. Swing by for lunch today. Time for the outside in. Let's get it. We've got missing evidence in the case against Livingston Parish's sweethearts, Dennis and Cynthia Perkins. Or do we? Couple's been behind bars since 2019. Prosecutors charged them with a combined 150 counts of sex crimes, including some against children and animals. Jarrett Embo, Dennis Perkins' attorney, told our news partners at WBRZ this week there are 1 or 2 digital storage devices missing from the scene. Originally, he said the AG's office told him they had turned over evidence to the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. The AG's office says there is no evidence missing, but also says the files weren't relevant. The Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office is referring requests for information back to the AG's office since they're the ones handling the investigation. Over to East Feliciana Parish, where a private school says it'll reconsider how it celebrates Martin Luther King Day after it drew ire for renaming the holiday on their academic calendar. The Silliman Institute addressed the controversy in a statement yesterday, saying it will review how the holiday is celebrated in its next Board of Directors meeting. The outcry began Monday after posts on social media criticized the school for labeling the holiday Great American Heroes Day. It's Martin Luther King Day. I think, was it Bud Light had the Super Bowl commercials for Real American Heroes? Different day. Different day. Back to Livingston Parish. The family of an 87-year-old man who was jumped by an armed assailant on his property and robbed at gunpoint before being left tied up at his own home is offering a $30,000 reward for information about the suspect. Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office said the attack happened around 8 p.m. Monday along Highway 441 in Haldane. The 87-year-old victim told investigators he was outside his home when a masked person confronted him. He was attacked, forced to hand over his money and valuables before being tied up. The attacker left the property in the victim's vehicle. If you want more information on this, visit our news partners at WBRZ. They've got pics, they've got links, they've got the works. Closing out in West Baton Rouge Parish, Anna Johnson has been named as the new executive director of the West Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce. Anna brings with her she's a public affairs specialist with over 10 years' experience in both public and private sectors. Going to have to get her on the show soon. Time for a break for CBS News on Talk 107.3. Real American Heroes. I did a bit with that commercial at some point. What did I do? Was it in the pandemic? Was it today we salute you, Mr. Two-Mask Wearer? I think that might have been it. I don't remember. Galen says, let's not forget, if you're in the telecom business, you have to bill Customer care, repair, market, etc. Operating costs. I want my customer care when it comes to the internet to be the exact same as my customer care when it comes to the DMV. And oh, by the way, let's shift the conversation over to healthcare. Byron says, Nina, I completely agree. I just don't think EBR needs 14 of them. They have a huge budget surplus that can be spent more productively. If I've got Netflix, I don't need Blockbuster. If I've got Amazon, I don't need Borders or Barnes & Noble. This has played itself out in reality already. If I have a car, I don't need a covered wagon. If I have a watch, I don't need Big Ben. See where I'm going? We evolve. We move on. We have this obsession with keeping around and paying for things because we claim that we still need them. But there's a time where you can cut bait. And that take is going to piss a lot of people off, and it should, because it's not just about where have we been, it's about where are we going. Tiffany says, I remember you doing the bit, but can't remember what exactly it was. Me neither! I want to say it was about people wearing 2 masks. Golly, so tough to remember. What was she talking about? The Prime Minister of England was stupid? So? We see that daily over here. The people in charge of the shutdown show up to the party in the middle of the shutdown. Hey, I got a question. Why haven't casinos been super spreaders? Oh, crap. I'm short one email. Hang on. Boy, I tell you what, man, I don't know. That's no good. Dan Eberhardt. Oh, I want Dan Eberhardt on the show. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Boom, bad on my pockets are getting fatter.
Breakdown is now clear that occurred on the entrance ramp from LA1 northbound to I-10 eastbound. As you can see, the ramp all clear. A tow truck came, cleared it all out. Now, in the meantime, traffic is still slower than usual.
Are you the doctor's attending in person?
No.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone
Do what? Do what? I thought I missed one. My next live is what? My Thurns? 806. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Got a busy hour this hour. You heard that forecast from Jake Dalton just a moment ago. It's going to get nasty, y'all. Tomorrow's going to be bad. Friday's going to be cold. Saturday's going to be cold. Sunday's going to be cold. Winter is coming. Is that a Game of Thrones reference? Yes, I think it is. I never watched Game of Thrones. I saw 3 episodes. Anyway, what's winter going to look like? Dr. Josh Eachus joins us in our next segment to talk about that. A little preview of what's to come. Might we see snow? Could that be in the works for us? We'll talk about it in our next segment. Also this hour, Dr. Henry Barham, part of the team that came up with something called Phenomune. Phenomune. A home taste sensitivity wellness test kit. Can your taste receptors tell you what your immunity levels are to different diseases up to and including COVID-19? Well, that's what this kit's all about. Where can you get it? How did it come to be? How accurate is it? Dr. Henry Barham joins us at 8:35 to talk about it. Coming up in just a minute, Jake's going to take us back in time. This day in history is coming your way in just a little bit. Do need to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's for a couple of reasons. Number one, awesome lunch counter. Number two, they're a full-service grocery store, both locations downtown or the one on campus at Nicholson at Skip Hartman Drive. I mean, how much more convenient can that be? If you're downtown at work and you want to knock out your shopping, grab the Mathern's app, do your shopping before you leave work, pick it up on the way home, boom, I just saved you an hour out of your week. Or if your commute takes you anywhere near LSU, same difference. Do that. But really, more than that, right now it's king cake time. It's the carnival season. Time to swing by Mathern's for a king cake. And oh, by the way, while you're grabbing 2 or 3 for your house, maybe ship some to friends around the country. Mathern's is shipping king cakes, y'all. Check out their Facebook page for more details. Mathern's Market at LSU would be a great place to start for that. Or if you're swinging on by, downtown on 3rd, Nicholson at Skip Hartman Drive, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. It's on campus, but it's not just for students. Mathern's Market. All right, time for us to go back in time. Did you know that in the original script for Back to the Future, the time machine wasn't a DeLorean? Yeah, curious. Jake, what happened on this day in history?
Well, Brian, I'll tell you what happened on this day in history. We're going to kick things off in 1825. What?
Tom Brady.
Happened in 1825?
Yeah, I know this one. Go ahead.
Ezra Dyer and his nephew, Thomas Kensett, they patent food storage in tin cans.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
They probably made a lot of money off of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Because it's, it's food.
Yeah, but in tin cans, though.
I feel like that's a weird thing to patent, but hey, to each their own. Good
What do you
for
mean a weird thing? Have you been to a grocery store
Well,
in
no,
ever?
I mean, but what's the new tin cans specifically for food, or are they patenting the tin can?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As opposed to the Pringles can that holds all the tennis balls?
Yeah.
What's the difference there?
Yeah, that's where I'm confused at least. But yeah, of course they probably made all the boats of money.
Yeah.
1955, Scrabble debuts on Board Game Market.
You like Scrabble?
I dabble.
Dabble in Scrabble?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I like Scrabble. I like Words with Friends. It was
I played that all the time.
So it's such a time suck now because it's got 100 different challenges within it. I'm like, I just want to play Scrabble.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hey, it's not that simple
I'm down
anymore.
to 3 games now. I've whittled it down to I'm only playing against 3 different people at this point. I'm done.
I played too many games on my phone when I was growing up, and I just outright cut them out because it took too much of my time. But
it's fun though. I like
it is
Scrabble.
fun. No, it's too much fun.
I
for me.
demolish my relatives when we play though. It's not even close. And they don't like to play against me in Scrabble anymore. It's
See,
gotten to
that's
that
when
point.
it's like unfortunate when you're
Yeah,
when
I
you're
know.
so good it's not fun for them to play.
Yeah, I'm the Ken Jennings of Scrabble.
1961, the first episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show is filmed.
Oh, that's not the only thing that happened in TV history today. Good.
I don't know if I have that yet. 1985, Born in the USA, single by Bruce Springsteen. It peaks at number 9.
Okay.
2000, Michael Jordan, who led the Chicago Bulls to 6 NBA championships as a player, if you didn't know. He returns to the NBA, joining the Washington Wizards as part owner and president of basketball operations.
Yep.
That didn't last long, because considering he was on the court within a season. About time, I guess.
Yep.
2013, Lance Armstrong admits to doping in all 7 of his Tour de France victories.
Yep.
I mean, so did everybody else, so it's, it's whatever.
Yeah, but Lance admitted it.
Fair. That's all the events. What I miss out on.
Oh, so much. First of all, I told you about the that wasn't the only TV story on this day in history. This day in 1953, Lucy goes to the hospital. 44 million Americans watched the episode where little Ricky was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Lucy. I love Lucy when she had her baby. 1983, this day in 1983, Ozzie Smith becomes the first $1 million shortstop in Major League Baseball. I know. $1 million, 1983. That was a big deal.
That is a lot of money.
I remember I'm sure it's somewhere in my old sports card collection. I've got a Sports Illustrated from 1987, and there were maybe $6 million players at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt. I think Tony Gwynn was in that number. Wade Boggs was in that number. Ozzie Smith, Don Mattingly. But it was rare that they were in 7 figures. How quickly things have changed. This day in 2002 was the Tuck Rule game. And, that's it.
Oh, all right. Let's get to the birthdays then. Starting things off, Dolly Parton turned 76.
Okay, can we adopt Dolly Parton as the new Betty White?
I think
Can
Betty
she be
White-
America's new sweetheart?
Okay, well, if you can rephrase it like that, then yes. No,
There's no replacing Betty White. No,
replacing Betty
and
White.
I never want to.
Okay, the way you said it made me think that's what you're going for, but
But it's
She
76.
can
I
be
feel
the
like
next-
she's still about 10 years out.
she could be the next sweetheart.
But
But Betty
she's,
White's
like,
in her own
It's
category.
the level of wit, the level of entertainment that just comes along with her. When you see her on TV, you know you're going to walk away entertained.
I think it's going to happen naturally. We'll see if it pans
Sure.
out, but we've only just been without Betty White for only a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Let's give her some respect.
What,
here.
yesterday would have been her 100th birthday, right?
Yep.
Or day before? Day before.
Yeah, that's right. That's crazy. Mac Miller, born on this day in 1992.
Who?
Unfortunately, Mac Miller, rapper, passed
Oh,
away
okay.
a couple years ago. Very unfortunate. Edgar Allan Poe was born on this day in 1809.
You Poe guy? Love me some Edgar Allan Poe.
Like Scrabble, I dabble.
Okay.
Paula Dean turned 75 today.
Yep. Butter, y'all.
JaVale McGee's 34.
So a couple years ago, we're on vacation in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and they've
Yeah.
got the Paula Dean store, like in the downtown, like
Yeah,
on the
I've
strip
been
or
there.
whatever. Yeah, well, she's 14 now, so she would have been like 11 at the time, maybe 10.
Okay.
My daughter just pokes her head in the Paula Dean store. She like opens the door and just shouts for the whole store to hear, "Butter, y'all!" and walks off. I was like, that. She's mine.
I wonder where she got that from.
That one's mine for sure.
Logan Lerman turns 30. He was in the Percy Jackson movies.
Okay.
And Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor turns 23.
Y'all.
Got any for me?
Oh, plenty.
hear it.
Famous white girl Sean Wayans.
It's a weird way to
White
put it.
chick. Darn it! Messed up the punchline. Famous white chick Sean Wayans, formerly SW1 from In Living Color. Yes, he was born today. You had Jonathan Taylor. Did you have Michael Maudie?
I did not.
Former Saints linebacker Michael Maudie. And while I'm reminiscing about the days of baseball gone by, Chris Sabo, born on this day in 1962. Former NL Rookie of the Year, former Reds third baseman, wore the goggles. You've got the 1990 Fleer rookie card. I know you do.
I love athletes wearing goggles.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
no
whether it's
explanation needed. It's
was
just
it James
fun.
Worthy had the goggles for the Lakers?
I think so.
Yeah.
Kareem had goggles.
Kareem had goggles.
And then who else?
Chris Sabo.
Yeah. There's a player for the Bulls. He played during the first 3 chips.
Horace Grant.
Horace Grant. There we go. That was the one. Shout out to all those wearing goggles during sporting events. No deaths to report. Let's
Whoa!
I missed one?
2 from baseball.
Oh, sorry.
It's America's pastime, man. Stan Musial died on this day in 2013 at the age of 92. He died from Alzheimer's disease. I mean, 24-time MLB All-Star.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you play 24 years, you're a winner. You make the All-Star team 24 times,
That's
it's
incredible.
next level. Absolutely. And on this day, also in 2013, bad day for baseball in 2013, Earl Weaver died of a heart attack. He was 82 years old. Longtime Orioles manager.
Rest in peace to both those mentioned. Let's get to the holidays to conclude this segment. First up, National Popcorn Day.
All right.
We have Museum Selfie Day, specifically in a museum, specifically a selfie. And finally, Brew a Potion Day.
Okay.
So yeah, brew a potion if you got the ingredients. But that is this day in history.
That is this day in history. We're already running long. Dr. Josh Eachus is on hold. What will the next 36 hours bring in Baton Rouge? We're telling you about it next. Aw. Thank you, Nina. I appreciate that. And Eric, you hit the nail on the head. They pay taxes and ventilation. We haven't heard squat about ventilation amidst the pandemic. Please do. Well, I know it is. He texted me, but. Really? I gotta throw this shirt away. Well, number one's a Fat Brian shirt. I don't not throw it away, donate it, obviously. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a Fat Brian shirt. Well, I say there's nothing wrong with it. Apparently, I scorched it with the iron at some point. There's some brown marks on the sleeve right here. Yeah, it's annoying when you haven't done anything that morning. You know, all I've had is like a Go Slim bar. It's like, how did I dirty up my shirt already? Oh, that's right. Scorched it with the iron. Old Jefferson. All right, let's go over to check that weather app first. .19 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We are running a few minutes behind schedule, which means we need to dive right in. WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus, is on the hotline. Things are going to get nasty. Josh, good morning. Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm not doing too bad today, Brian. How are you?
Doing all right. So walk us through this next 36 hours, because as I'm looking at it, we're looking at, what, a 90% chance of rain today, but it's not going to be during the day today, correct?
Yeah, I don't really see much rain falling today at all. In fact, they probably get more sunshine overall. Clouds will start to build up late and the cold front that's going to bring us the messy weather to round out the week will probably be arriving between about 9 p.m. and midnight tonight. So, yeah, technically by the 24-hour standards of, rain coverage, it will occur in this window, but a lot of us will be inside and home by the time it gets here.
So this is another basically rinse repeat of cold waves that come through, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a this is more normal. Getting stuck in the 80s for 10 days around Christmas is not, nor is February 2021 where we're below freezing for 5 consecutive days. January, February, you should be seeing a cold front pass through the area, every 5 or 6 once a week, and this one's going to have more staying power than any other wave of cold air we've had so far this winter season.
What causes the staying power? Is it just the repetition of it, like things are just cooling down overall, or why does it stick around?
That's a great question. It has more to do with the upper levels of the atmosphere, and think of the atmosphere in terms of if you think of it as a fluid and waves, and this is a wave that is going to be a little more entrenched in the eastern United States. Think of it as a longer wave pattern, even out on a lake. There's some days where it's really choppy, and they're smaller, quicker interval waves where sometimes you have a slow roll across the lake. This is a little bit more of a slow roll where we're going to be in between wave heights for a much longer time in the atmosphere. So the cold pool is able to settle over the southeast and stay for a while.
Dialing it back into what's going to happen over the next 24 hours. So late tonight is when the rain will start. Should this be cleared out by, say, morning drive tomorrow?
It's going to be wrapping up. The rain's going to be on its very tail end. It'll be much lighter. Impacts to tomorrow morning's commute should be on the low end. I mean, obviously there's a little risk of slick driving when we have some rain out there, and it won't be helped by breezy conditions, the wind. So tomorrow's kind of a yellow light for the morning drive, just for some caution, but certainly not a full stop. And then we just have a really cold day. I mean, our high temperature for Thursday will occur at 12:01 a.m., whatever that may be. I've got it somewhere in the mid to upper 50s, and we will just probably see each consecutive hour cooler through the daytime hours. Could be in the upper 30s by nightfall, and we'll be close to freezing by the following midnight. So just a drop in temperatures, similar to what we saw this past Saturday, but probably a bit more dramatic.
So I don't need more dramatic than last Saturday. Last Saturday it feels, the wind chill makes it colder than it is, obviously. And when it's rolling through like that, especially over the course of a day when you expect it to be warming, it makes it that much more bitter and biting. Looking ahead to Thursday night into Friday morning, do we have another chance of showers? And is this where we're seeing that quote-unquote potential for wintry mix?
Yes, this would be the time frame to watch for the week in terms of impactful weather to our area. Nothing much has changed overnight. So as far as the system coming into our area, it looks like a weak upper-level disturbance. The cold front itself is going to be in the Gulf of Mexico, but slow moving. So as the disturbance moves over the front, we have a natural lifting process going on. And because the winds in the atmosphere will be out of the southwest, that's going to throw moisture inland toward Louisiana. So let's kind of break down some of the details. The first question mark that we have is actually how far inland will that moisture make it? Because we will have, as you know, typically a cold front brings not only colder air, but drier air. So we're going to have drier air moving in behind the front as well. Can we have enough moisture move far enough inland to overcome that and make it down to the surface? We believe there's going to be enough, at least for some places, to see some isolated frozen precipitation. The challenge is, will we see anything but freezing rain? And right now it looks like no. The process in the atmosphere need a certain amount of cold air for there to be snow, a little less for sleet, and when you have very little cold air except for at the surface, all you get is freezing rain. And I don't see much possibility for anything but that. So unfortunately, if we get some wintry precipitation, it's the least fun kind. Now, as far as accumulations go, between midnight Friday and let's say noon Friday would be the window of opportunity for rain to fall and glaze up because we'll have surface temperatures at or below freezing. Right now, in our entire viewing, listening, forecast area, there's only about a 30% chance of any ice accumulation. So that's still low, but even a low chance of that in our area has our attention because that can create some problems. The amounts we're expecting, when I say a 30% chance, is just greater than 0.01 inches, a hundredth of an inch. That is enough to probably cause some elevated roads to be slick. Your bridges. I would say almost any time it happens, you're at least keeping an eye on the elevated surfaces of I-10 and the bridges. there's only a 5% or less chance of a tenth of an inch or more of ice accumulation. And that's when we start talking about trees and power lines, which I think everybody is nervous about because of last year. For context, last year we had about a quarter of an inch of ice accumulation. So there is just no threat of a repeat of last year. This would be as normal as you can call it, a little bit more of a typical borderline, we'll see what happens wintry weather scenario here in South Louisiana. I would call it of the nuisance category.
Well, that nuisance is going to coincide with morning drive on Friday, though, if there's any accumulation at all. So are we starting to prepare for the possibility of maybe school closures on Friday?
I hate to speculate on that because
that's exactly why I ask.
The dominoes start falling. You know, I follow the WBRZ news app. Of course, you get a push, and you know one of the Feliciana schools closes, and then just all the dominoes go down, and the entire area starts closing. Yeah. I'm not picking on the Felicianas; I'm just naming a random parish.
Well, that's where you'd get a little bit colder and a little bit more rural, so that'd be more apt to it.
They'll probably follow, you know, what happens on the roads, because if it's 33 and raining, it's safe for those buses to be on the road. Physically impossible for there to be ice if it's 33 or warmer.
Right.
And we're lucky that today's going to be in the mid-70s. The ground's got a little bit of a warmer starting point. So it really, in this event, with only about a 12-hour window of below freezing temperature, keep in mind, too, last year, I said it earlier, freezing for 5 straight days. We'll have a few hours below freezing, and that temperature is going to bump back above freezing by mid to late morning on Friday and into the afternoon. So you do kind of need a cumulative effect there for that ice to have a major impact. Elevated surfaces obviously have no chance to stay warm. As soon as that air starts hitting them from both directions, they freeze up. That's why, unfortunately, I-10's elevated in parts of Baton Rouge and across the river, and so are the bridges. But the side streets really shouldn't get too terribly icy, even if we do get that light glaze, because they have a warmer starting point and the ground below them is pretty warm. So that's working on our side. But, you know, we play it safe here, too. I said that it's a very small nuisance amount of ice, 0.01 inches. It's still ice, and it's still Louisiana, and we're not used to it, and it's a challenge to drive on. So that's the time frame to watch for impacts to us, and the impacts to us would be, you know, things having to stand still a little while that ice melts.
2 more for you before I get you out of here. Dr. Josh Eachus, WBRZ's chief meteorologist, is our guest, and I always appreciate your time. Josh, it's looking like the overnight low Friday night into Saturday morning is as cold as it's going to get, with an overnight low projected at 26. How big of a difference does it make each degree that drops below 32? Like, is 26 that much worse than 32 or 31?
We do, yeah. That's a great question too. There's a magic number, and it's, you know, when we get to the mid-20s, that's when we start calling it a hard freeze, and that is important simply for pipe purposes. You know, anytime it's 32 or lower, we talk about the 3 Ps: people, plants, and pets. Add the 4th P when we get into those middle and then lower 20s, and so there's the combination of the actual temperature and the duration. And Saturday and Sunday morning could be our first hard freezes of the year. And if you haven't needed to or taken any precautions on your pipes yet this year, especially if you live in a shotgun-style home that's elevated, even a concrete slab home where your pipe's on the outside of the house, not a bad idea to use today's warmth to go ahead and insulate it. That way you don't have to get out in the cold or the wet weather the next few days and do that in preparation for Friday night into Saturday.
Last one before I get you out of here. We're looking at Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, all getting below freezing, Sunday night right at freezing. When you talk about duration, having breaks in between does affect this. The fact that it's going to dip below freezing for 3 straight nights does not mean we're going to be frozen for 3 straight nights.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our afternoon, Friday's going to be the really brutal one because we might not get out of the 30s. But after that, some sun on Saturday should get us in the mid to upper 40s. Still a chilly day. Yeah. Back to the 50s on Sunday, and Monday, upper 50s, maybe even 60 degrees. And that is a huge help. Last year, we had 0 chance to thaw. Because it was not 5 straight nights of freezing temperatures, but days where we didn't get above 32 degrees. I mean, we were counting them in hours. It was in the 90s, 90 consecutive hours below freezing. This is not going to be that at all. We'll be talking about 6 to 8 hours maybe at night, and then warming above freezing in the afternoon hours, and quite a bit above freezing. Yeah. So even if we get any light ice accumulation on Friday, should even be warm enough and dry enough by Friday afternoon to melt it, even that we don't refreeze it Friday night into Saturday.
He is WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus. We'll keep you on standby in case anything goes sideways in the meanwhile, but I think we're pretty much ready for this one.
All right, good visiting with you, Brian. Take care.
Always, Josh. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. He is so good. You know, if you've got an elevated house, a shotgun house like you was talking about, at this point, why aren't your pipes not permanently covered? Like, just swing by Academy and get yourself some pool noodles. I don't even know if that's an effective way to cover your pipes, but nonetheless, we go through it every year. Can't we just set it and forget it? Here comes CBS News. They call it a hard freeze, but when it's that cold, I'm anything but. Too much? I think, yeah, might have a little bit of Pat Mahomes in there. Maybe a little Ben Mentz.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update. I hung up and I'm sitting there going,
Drivers in the old Jefferson area need to look out for
I wonder if these things call out. So I picked up the phone, I hit, what do you do normally? Hit 9, right? Gives you an outside line. I hit 9.
talking to slow traffic on I-10
I dial tone. I dial my house.
And the phone would ring. I'd pick it up, and it'd be Joe. I go, what are you doing?
I go, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you calling me from?
We're going to be live in just a couple moments in the vision, okay?
Say I love you, and I go, well, I love you. Why are you calling? He goes, I have an outside line. I check in every stadium.
On the sideline phone. I found out some accidents. So I thought it was medical lessons. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Picture this. You're trying to hire someone or buy something, and you click on their website, but it takes forever.
All right,
And looks
let's get it on.
probably move on. If you're concerned that just describes your website, you should call us. We're
What do we got here? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Open up and let's get started. Bing bong. Get registered. Scan the QR code above with your mobile device or visit phenomune.com. Enter your unique Phenomune ID number. Take the taste test. Receive your results. All right. And that's why I haven't done it yet. My camera shattered, so scanning QR codes doesn't work right now. Yeah. Look, the little bitty, I don't know how that happens, but that little bitty glass cover, it throws everything off. Pictures I take, I've got to use the camera facing me because everything looks like it's got a starburst right in the middle. So stupid. So I haven't been able to take my test yet. I was going to take it last night with my little test strips.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, "Did I have EPI?"
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Bringing you the news you can use with Brian Kilmeade and common sense for your dollars and cents with Dave Ramsey. Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
.837, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. No reason for us to recap the forecast there as we normally do because we just had Dr. Josh Eachus on to give us the forecast. The long and the short of it is tomorrow night, going to be some rain. Friday night, going to be some rain as well. And it's going to get cold for a number of days in a row. So, there you go. All right, we're shifting gears here to talk about not just COVID, but overall immunity. And there's a cool new, I call it a product out there. It is a testing kit. It's called Phenomune. And joining us now is one of the creators of it, Dr. Henry Barham. Dr. Barham, welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm great. Hey, thanks so much for having me.
No, glad to have you on here because this looks like well, first of all, it looks like an absolute game changer as far as knowing where everyone is at, not just with COVID, but with basically anything under the sun. Give us the basics of what went into Phenomune, how it became to be, and what you hope to learn from it.
Yes, I mean, it's been kind of a wild ride, obviously, COVID in general, but we sort of started studying this family of receptors and then now have worked on refining this test, which basically measures one's level of expression of these receptors, which, has shown predictability to severity of illness, not just to COVID, but to upper respiratory viruses or infections in general. And so that's kind of a fascinating time in medicine is to work on something that potentially does change the way that we manage these things.
Okay, so let's start with this. Taste receptors and immunity. Where's the correlation here?
Yeah, so they're called taste receptors. They do influence taste, but they're actually just family of receptors that lives throughout your body, like kind of throughout your respiratory tract, even in your colon. But one of the ways that you can test for them, because they're on your respiratory tract, is they're on your tongue, and so you can actually do what's called a taste test, where it stimulates the receptors, and the way that you perceive them is perceived as taste, even though that's not really necessarily their function throughout the airway. It's just an easy and kind of simple way to actually test for them.
Is this something that's been known for some time or something we've learned recently?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, well, I think kind of still learning about them, truthfully. They've been studied more so to like bacterial infections and sinusitis and things like that, but really have ramped up recently in terms of predictability to viral infections and then potential avenues for like novel therapeutics for, things that you could take, whether it be sprays or pills or things like that to kind of prevent or prophylaxis against upper respiratory infections.
How accurate is this? Like, how much can you tell about your own immunity based off of this test or just the receptors in general?
Yes, obviously there are plenty of, many factors that are involved in terms of immunity, and this is certainly one of many. but as it relates to sort of innate immunity or your baseline level of defense, this does appear to be pretty predictive. And so we've now done several clinical trials just looking at exactly that in terms of, predictability of severity and duration of illness to SARS-CoV-2 and now influenza and other upper respiratory viruses.
Dr. Henry Barham's our guest. We're talking about Phenomune. We're talking about learning your level of immunity based off of taste receptors. And I guess that's my next question is this something that we all have on a spectrum, or is it something you either have or you don't?
No, yeah, it's a spectrum because there's the family itself has at least 25 known of these receptors, and so there are certain ones that you can test for, that are genetic, where it's kind of displayed across the whole population, but there's multiple of them, and there's multiple stimulants for them, and so it's a pretty wide range, and there are actually ways to supplement them if you do have low expression or taste. You don't do as great on the test, I would say.
So the test kit itself, which I was aiming to take last night, but I've got a little problem with my camera on my phone, so I couldn't scan the QR code.
Okay.
But the test itself looks very simple. You have a number of different strips you put on your tongue for about 5 seconds apiece, then seal them back up again. Is there something outside of the test that, like, hints, go-tos, something that would be kind of a tell as to whether or not you have these particular receptors or the level of strength of them?
It's interesting. When we first started publishing some of this stuff, there's been a lot of, really interesting and honored to be a part, but articles that were written like in National Geographic and Washington Post and things like that. A lot of people sort of have referenced it, like taste for, dislike for broccoli or Brussels sprouts. That certainly weighs in because the receptors do sort of give an unpleasant response if you have high expression of them to some of those foods, but it's certainly not as scientific, I would say. Although, it's still interesting. That's kind of what you learned in like chemistry classes and stuff when you were in high school, of like taste test and how genetics influence taste in general. So there are some tells. I wouldn't say that they're terribly scientific, though.
Is there, if you take the test, you get the kit, you take the test, is there a concern about a false level of confidence about fighting the pandemic overall? Because,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly don't want to, and that's why we, are trying to push that this is one factor involved. And so you don't want to, it certainly doesn't make you Superman in terms of you can go out and just assume that you're not going to get COVID. I think that's false. Everybody's subject to it. It was more helpful in showing potential, severity of illness as opposed to like who gets it and who doesn't. And so that's where it looks like this research is heading, and then the way that we supplement, with sort of new novel therapeutics.
Well, yeah, and as we're learning more and more about from the vaccination in, you can carry it asymptomatically, that sort of thing. Would you, if your receptors are active or your receptors are, tell you have more immunity, would you still carry it and be a danger to others?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly could. I think anyone, part of this is washing hands, hand sanitizer, things like that. The whole point of why early in the pandemic, promotion of social distancing and things like that, just out of common courtesy, because anyone can spread, whether you're symptomatic or asymptomatic. If you've had exposure and you're carrying the virus, you're a potential vector.
So let's talk a little bit about diving into Phenomune, like specifically, like the process and how y'all got to where you are today. First of all, I find it fascinating, and I'm always curious as to, like, if we're just now getting it today, why did it take till now to get where we are with this research?
Yeah, well, so a couple of issues there. Number one, I think America, and rightfully so, is set up to protect patients, and so part of any new medical device or anything like that, it has to go through multiple barriers of protection, and evaluation. And so when we first did the initial couple of trials and published those, they went through peer review, and then some of them published last summer, and then now have been going through FDA process and sort of setting everything up just so that it is safe and helpful and accurate. That's one thing we've really been working on, is just making sure that it, at a scalable level, that it remains accurate and helpful.
How much pushback have you gotten throughout the medical community? Because for so long, this is kind of a pandemic-specific question,
Yeah.
but for so long, if it was masks and vaccines, vaccines, we weren't allowed to talk about anything else. Something like this enters something new into the pandemic equation. How much pushback have you gotten in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, anything new certainly, and appropriately so, needs to go through multiple layers of evaluation, and it has done that. Pushback, I mean, I don't know how much pushback has been, and I think those things are still very important in terms of obviously the federal government and media is pushing vaccination and mandates, and I understand why. Something like this is novel, and so I don't know that we've gotten a lot of pushback, but it certainly has gone through the ringer in terms of being evaluated at multiple levels to make sure that it is safe.
This has been featured in, let's see, Washington Post, National Geographic, the Journal of American Medicine, and I'm always curious as to how it finds its way back home. How did you, in Baton Rouge, get involved with this?
These are actually, I mean, this family of receptors is something that I have studied dating back to like 2011, 2012, when I was in Colorado at the time, and then have moved to Australia and then back here. And so we've continued to study them, as I said previously, more so to like sinusitis and things like that. When COVID started, I knew how the family of receptors worked, and how that potentially affected the transmission of the virus in general into individual subjects, and so that's why we started looking into it in the first place. And lo and behold, the data has been pretty outstanding, and so that's kind of my way into it. And obviously during a pandemic when everything shut down, now's the perfect time to study it, because there's that's what's important at this point.
The front of the package says increasing your immunity begins here. It feels to me like this is more about awareness of your own immunity. I mean, is there follow-up beyond the test?
There is, and so part of it is it's designed to, number one, give answers, but then two, not just leave you there. And so are there ways to improve your overall health and wellness is sort of the idea there, so that as we move past COVID, as we move on to life in the future, whether it be future infections, hopefully no more pandemics, but just in general that people will have sort of more awareness of their overall health and ways to improve that.
If I work to improve my immunity, will it make me not like Brussels sprouts anymore?
Not necessarily. That's a good question, though.
I'm one of the few that likes Brussels sprouts, so I just I'd like to stay in that small
club. It depends on how they cook, though.
Well, obviously, you ruin them with a lot of butter. I mean,
in Louisiana, no, I don't.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's ruined. That's one of the beauties of our culture.
Phenomune.com, PHENOMUNE. Phenomune.com is where you'd go to get the testing kits. How long does it take for turnaround? You take it home, you get your test. How long does it take to get you the results?
It's immediate. You actually do it, as you mentioned earlier, on your phone, and it gives you the results immediately.
With
so you don't have to go in or do anything. Yep, you got it.
All right, very cool stuff. Hey, is there hope to learn anything beyond just regular immunity with this? There's more exploration to be had?
Absolutely. As I said, I think that unraveling sort of the understanding of how this family of receptors works in general, and so I think the potentials are enormous here.
Can't wait to learn more. Can't wait to get my phone fixed so I can actually take the dadgum test that I'm sitting here holding right now. But Phenomune.com is the website if you want to check it out. In the meanwhile, we greatly appreciate the time. Dr. Henry Barham, thank you so much for hopping on board.
Thank you all. Y'all have a great day.
You do the same. I mean, this is, bear in mind, we're talking potential here, right? And this is one of the things that has fascinated me since the beginning of the pandemic. Learning curve. What's going to come out of the back end of the pandemic that we didn't have going in? Or at least we didn't have in any sort of a mainstream fashion. Dude's been studying this for 10 years now. If I can learn so much more about my level of immunity to the next pandemic, the next disease, the next flu season, I'm one in for sure. All right, we had a break. We got one segment to go. Here's your money now. Bro, that was so cool. I hate that I'm not smarter than I am. No, you know, I'm self-aware enough to know that when it comes to science, I suck. If I was better at science, I wouldn't be waking up at 3:30 every morning to do a 3-hour radio show. Me not know the science. Bing bong. Yes, please. Yes. Yep. Oh, I should probably do some prep for that.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
With a music lineup like we're seeing at Red Stick Social, we know 2022 is going to be a good year. If you're looking for new things to do with your friends this year, then Red Stick Social is what you're looking for. Baton Rouge's newest event venue for everyone. Live music, brunch on Sundays, bowling with your family. You can even do yoga on Sundays on the 5th floor rooftop. What can't you do at Red Stick Social? Stay tuned for an exciting new year at Red Stick Social on Government Street near the 10110.
Answers to life money problems in real time.
We'll just figure out what poor people are doing and don't do that. That's a big deal. Figure out what rich people are doing and do that. You want to be a millionaire? Find out what millionaires do. Do millionaire stuff. Hello. You want to be skinny? Find out what skinny people are doing. Do skinny people stuff. Hello. You want to be 87 years old and been married 62 years? Talk to somebody that's done that. You've been married 16 times. I hope this one sticks for you, but I don't want to read your book on marriage.
Dave Ramsey, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m. on Baton Rouge's Talk Leader. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. When you've been in the industry for over 20 years, you learn a few things. For one thing, you learn your product inside and out. But you also learn how to ask the right question and give satisfying answers. Jim Spire.
Davies Tiger Express in Central. Owned and operated by the Davies family, now Craig Davies at the helm. Invite you to come by for a great choice of breakfast, lunch, and dinner daily. Davies specializes in charbroiled chicken, fish, shrimp,
The name of the product was Phenomune. Phenomune.
on the corner of Hooper and Jor. Visit Davies Tiger Express.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answers at MurphyLawFirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money.
Nina says ventilation air purifier is important in the fight against COVID-19. I wonder if the casinos figure out that changing their filters on a regular basis helps. And not so much that, but it's the effectiveness with which they suck up the air and pump in new air.
When are we using this interview?
I don't know yet. Might be Friday, and I might move up the other one on Friday in the Haggai segment, because if Haggai's still out with COVID, then I'd rather do that than work. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, y'all. I got to stop the yawning. This is another night where I'll go to bed, I'll fall asleep, and then I'll wake up feeling refreshed at the time, like an hour later. Mm-hmm. 8:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Been a good show today. Been a fun show today. Covered a lot of ground. I honestly could have gone for like 3 more segments of Legally Served. In fact, I might have to circle back with Franz, and we'll have to do a bonus one on Friday. There's so much that we haven't touched yet, not the least of which is Ed Ogeron's no longer a part of the lawsuit, the sexual assault lawsuits at LSU. Their number of people who were actually charged whittled down from 19 to like 5. But the topics we did cover, you can check them out on demand at talk1073.com, or if you want to, visit our YouTube page, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and hit subscribe while you're there, and you just fast forward the first half hour. Franz starts at 6:35, so fast forward to 35 minutes into the show. You should be right about to it. There is so much more conversation to be had as well. Hey, speaking of so much more conversation to be had via YouTube, got to tell you what's coming up 2.5 minutes from right now. 3 minutes from right now. Ever heard of Lenny Kaye? Longtime guitarist, composer, one of the original members of Patti Smith and her band. He has got a new book out called Lightning Striking. This book encapsulates 10 moments where music was just changed. 10 moments where the music industry just advanced. It says, with Lightning Striking, he has gathered a treasure trove of original, hilarious, and shocking stories from the last hundreds of years of music and written a deep but accessible guide for fans and newcomers alike. I can't wait to dive into this. We got Lenny Kaye coming up in about 2.5 minutes from right now to talk about it on YouTube only. On air, we'll hand off to CBS News and the Fox News Rundown. Then, of course, Brian Kilmeade after that. But on YouTube, one of these 10 moments happened in New Orleans in 1957. Going to have to get that story specifically and a teaser for what else is in the book. Lightning Striking, 10 transformative moments in rock and roll. Lenny Kaye, one of the founding members of Patti Smith and her band. Looking forward to that. Hey, before we get out of here today, I want to recap one more time where the COVID numbers were at. As earlier in the day, or I should say the very beginning of the show, so 3 hours ago we told you, state did not report new cases at noon on Monday. Noon on Monday was still the middle of a holiday, Martin Luther King Day. Noon yesterday, the new numbers came out. So you're talking about a 3-day weekend, so 4 days worth of numbers. Yesterday, State Department of Health reporting 29,125 new cases. That feels like a big number, but remember, divide it by 4, which puts you at around, 8,500 a day or so? 58 new deaths reported yesterday. That's a big number as well. But the real number that I'm looking at here, because the governor has said this in multiple press conferences, the real number that everybody's looking at is the number of COVID patients in the hospital. 2,183. Yes, that is still very high, but also, yes, wasn't that just 10 fewer last Friday? Yeah. 4 days worth of accumulation of folks going to the hospital, and it only went up by 10. We might be starting to see the turning of the ship when it comes to the Omicron variant. Not promising that yet. Too soon to determine anything a trend, but it is one you'll start to keep your eye on. Hey, we will be back at it tomorrow. Patrick Gremion, host of the Patty G Show, will be on board. Michelle Southern, host of Only in Louisiana podcast, will be on board. And, of course, we'll have Crime Stoppers as well. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, YouTube. Let's see what we got here. Got to get Lenny Kaye on the hotline. On the hotline. I don't think he has a Twitter, so I can't really tag him. No, that dipshit has 5 followers. That's not him. Excuse me. Bing bong. All right. Nina says, yes, please. Go get it. All right. Is the board already set?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Top 107.3. Out at 9 o'clock, or out at 9. Okay, thank you.
Out at what?
Out at 9:09.
Okay. All right. Got him punched up. I'm hearing me. Lenny, you there?
I am here,
Excellent.
and you're there.
Yes, sir. Jake, we good? Joined right now by Lenny Kaye. He's the author of Lightning Striking, 10 Transformative Moments in Rock and Roll, and he's got quite the rock and roll history and resume to have provided those 10 transformative moments. Lenny, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm really great. It's great to be on the radio in Louisiana.
Well, Louisiana is one of the locations of one of those 10 transformative moments, albeit right down the road in New Orleans. We'll get to that in a minute. I got to start with a little bit about your history. Patti Smith and her band, among so many other stops along the way. How do you narrow a book down to 10 moments with the resume, the amount of musical history that you've been witness to and part of? How do you squeeze that down into one book?
Well, I wondered about that about halfway through the book. I mostly chose these kind of transformative moments because they seem to me a kind when the music changed, and also it was a way to tell the history of this music, which is so illuminated my own sense of myself as a musician. To really kind of, you know, it just seemed like this was where things changed generationally. So and how it affected me as a player, and my perspective on it. You know, there's lots of moments in time that are not there because I wasn't either a part of it or I was too distant musically. So it's just kind of the ones that affected me and kind of were mile markers in my own musical development.
Chronologically, the first one listed Memphis 1994, and the last one mentioned Seattle 1991. Over that course of time, and I'm asking you this as an artist's perspective, a guitarist, composer, and from that perspective, do you change with the music? Do you transform with the music, or do you appreciate it for where it's going? Or is there a point where you just turn into the get off my lawn guy?
No, I love all musics, and in fact, I would like more musics to take root on my lawn. I'm a listener. I'm a fan starting out. So really, I kind of have all these musics on my dining table, and I like nibble a little bit here and a little bit there, and they all go into making who you are as a musical personality. It's like your record collection. You know, you go to the store, you get this, and after 50 or 60 years of accumulating, you realize that what you've done is make a personal portrait of yourself through your records. So, I mean, I'm pretty much the same musician I started out with, but, you know, you're continually learning, you're continually absorbing, even from musics that are not in the book. I mean, I listen to a completely wide range of stuff from hip-hop and EDM, techno dance music to old doo-wop, and, I just love music. And my whole thing is to find a great song in every genre and make it my own and understand music through that. Sometimes it takes a while. It took me a long while to find my key into bebop. But when I did, I suddenly saw how exciting it was for the musicians on West 52nd Street in New York City in the late 40s. You know, it was kind of like the punk rock of their day. And, I just like I like the aliveness of music, that it continually transforms and illuminates.
Did not expect that one. Did not expect to hear Lenny Kaye mention EDM on the radio this morning, but there it is. Actually, let me ask you from a different perspective here. The way we've consumed music has transformed over the years as well. Has the way we've consumed music splintered the type of music we're allowed to be exposed to, or we avail ourselves of?
Well, I mean, I think we're definitely at a sea change of how we experience music. Most of the stuff that I write about was originally heard as on a radio or a jukebox, and sometimes it was very difficult to find, these records. A lot of the songs that I heard was driving across country and tuning in the radio and pulling in some distant station and finding the record. Now with a touch of a computer key, you can go anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these scenes that I speak about in the book, they were kind of aborning for a couple years, figuring themselves out. I'm not sure that we all have that luxury anymore of taking our time and becoming, something unique, because all of these scenes have a unique quality to them. So, it's like the 3-minute single started, the 3-minute song form started because that's all the music you could fit on a 78 or a 45. How we absorb and understand music is often very, very much concerned with how it gets to us.
Yeah.
The radio. I mean, let's be honest. I'm an obsessive radio listener, but there's so many other things coming at us these days. Will that be the primary disseminator? I mean, you and me hope so, for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I could stay down the rabbit hole of our willingness to explore versus our availability of what's out there. And but I've only got 2 minutes left, so I've got to ask you. New Orleans 1957 is listed as one of the stops along these transformative moments. What's your story out of New Orleans in 1957?
Well, it begins actually in 1850 with Louis Marie Gottschalk, the Chopin of the Creoles, and I try to trace all these scenes from when they when they start and how they become. For New Orleans, one of my greatest moments in the book was going to where Cosmo Matas's studio was at the edge of the French Quarter, which is now a laundromat, and standing in the back room where the dryers are whirling around like a 10-inch shellac record. And that's where, Little Richard made Tutti Frutti, and Fats Domino made The Fat Man, and Lordy Miss Claudie by Lloyd Price. To be in one of those holy sites of music was so illuminating to me. I really loved it, and just walking around and seeing where the Dewdrop Inn used to be, it was great visiting. I felt like I was on tour, and this was my tour itinerary, stopping in Memphis in 1954, New Orleans in 57, and understanding how these scenes came to be and what their effect was as they moved out into the universe.
Yeah, New Orleans' history coinciding with music's history is quite the exploration as well. He is a founding member of Patti Smith and her band. He is the author of Lightning Striking 10 Transformative Moments in Rock and Roll, which is available right now. If you want to check it out online, hardcover has been available for about a week. Lenny Kaye, I can't tell you how much I appreciate a few minutes of your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. Keep the faith, and the faith will always keep you.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Woo! He was great. All right, YouTube. I think that's going to be our 8:35 segment on Friday. Honestly, that was way better than I thought it was going to be. Not to mention the fact that I didn't butcher the first question of the interview like I did yesterday. I had to edit that one. Anyway, hey, thank y'all for playing along today. We will see y'all tomorrow. Patty G's in the house. Got a lot to talk about. Later.